We are all welcome, members, our support staff, as well as the AG, because for the first 45 minutes, hopefully it's going to be lesser than that. We'll start with the AG. Then we will then proceed to engage with the department. I think I'll stop here without making any remarks for now, and then I'll make the remarks at point 2 when we are engaging with the department. And I guess the department are not here, Ms. Priscilla, for now. Oh, yes, let me recognize them as well. The minister, the DM, the DG, and all the DGs who are here, and entities and the chairpersons of the entities who are here, and the CEOs, without singling anyone. All of us and all of you are welcome in this meeting. The better 45 minutes, Honorable Minister and DM and your team, it's a committee engaging with the AG, but you are at liberty also to be part as well, because you might not pick up at what stage you would have finalized with the AG. With that, honorable members, we're all welcome and the meeting is officially opened. Let's deal with the housekeeping matters. We do have a couple of apologies from Honorable May, Honorable Hansinga, and Honorable Nolujungu. Those are the apologies that we have received. I hope I'm not omitting anyone that would have apologized. Ms. Valerie, anyone that we have omitted?
Chair, those are the 3 members that submitted their apologies.
Okay, thank you very much. And do we have a quorum? Let's check.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair, I can confirm that.
We are good. Thank you very much. With that, let me hand over to Team AG, which I understand Ms. Con Macbeck is leading for the team, but for DOT presentation, Mr. Siyabonga Hlongwane will deal with that. And Ms. Tsepiso Mafundi will quickly deal with the status on floods. With that, may I hand over to you, AGSA, and take us through? Or probably before even you start, let me also confirm that previously, this time around, the chair didn't have a meeting with the AG because some of the issues that the AG engaged on previously are contained in the presentation that I'm going to make, because not much has changed. The only thing is that the way issues that were pending between the department and some of the entities and the AGs, hence there was no meeting between the chair. But we felt that it's important that we just, for the purpose of completeness, that she just directly come to us here at the committee level, so that we don't even overstretch them as well. Over to you, Ms. Macbeck. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Thank you so much for having us today. Yes, my name is Gudnay Meiberg. I'm the business unit leader responsible for the transport portfolio. And yes, it's always our privilege to come and share the insights that we've gained through the work that we've been doing, and therefore hope that it can also assist you in terms of your oversight role. As you rightfully said, Siyabonga will do the presentation on the outcome for the department specifically. And then before seeing that the AG today is briefing the ad hoc committee on the status of the floods real-time audit that we did, we thought that it is opportune then to also share with the portfolio committee the status specifically relating to SANRAL and PRASA. So I'm going to hand over to Sia so that he can do the presentation in terms of the department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good morning to the members of the portfolio department and AGSA. You can confirm, Chairperson, if I'm audible. Person, I think you are muted.
Okay, no, I'm saying that you are audible, but so that we confirm that you are not a robot, just show your face, then you can switch off your video thereafter.
Okay.
Now I can see you. No, you may
Yes.
proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start with the presentation on the audit outcomes of the department. The first slide is on our mission and vision, where we indicating that AG exists to strengthen oversight, such as portfolio committees with relevant audit insight to empower members with the information that will be relevant to hold the department accountable. That will be our vision. And then the accountability ecosystem, which we might have shared even in our initial meeting on the portfolio, is just indicating that there's a different role players in this mission of making sure that we provide services to the public, where the decision makers, officials, senior managers are there as part of the ecosystem. And also we have a support and oversight role played by the different coordinating departments, the provincial and national leaderships. We have AGSA in the center that through our audits we provide
Sia, without interrupting your thought flow, if you may deal with the actual, because you will know that last 2 weeks we had an engagement with the AG and it is a continuation. So just deal with the actual content in terms of your work. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. In getting to the actual audit outcomes, with the department have maintained unqualified with findings as a department, and in the current year, the findings we related to the performance information, where we had a usefulness issues as well as reliability issues. On usefulness issues, it's where we're talking about some of the systems in the department which were inadequate to ensure that the information that is reported could be verifiable. So we have some verifiability issues on the information that will be reported in the annual performance report. And then on the reliability issues, it's where some of the information that has been reported in their performance report could not be supported by evidence. And also we like to note that because the department as a monitoring department, they will rely on the third parties, for some of the information that they will include in their annual report. And as some of the information in those third parties being qualified because of not having sufficient evidence to support the information that is there, as the department will be taking that information and include them in their annual performance report, will then going to be impacted because the information would have findings reported on the third parties or implementing agents. And then on my right, we're looking at the quality. Maybe before we go to the slide, on my right, it's more on the quality of the financial statements. As you can see, that the quality of the financial statements has been submitted by the financial statements has been good. So we don't have issues in terms of the quality of the submission of their financial statements. Then you can move on. And on this slide, we're just unpacking some of the issues that I've indicated on the performance information, where we're saying that some of there were inadequate processes to verify the reported information to make sure it is credible. As a result, you'll see that on my left-hand side, the graph is red, which indicates that before the audit submission, the submission to the audit, we had findings, but even after the information was submitted for audit, we still remain with findings. And then on the middle, we just reflecting on the achievement of the target in the annual performance reports of the department, where 77% of the targets have been achieved. And then on the bottom, we're just reflecting to say some of the targets that wouldn't have been achieved relating to some of the policies that hasn't been submitted to the cabinet because there's still some further consultations or delays that has still been experienced in finalizing some of those policies. And another indicator we just highlighted, which relating to the scrapping of all taxes, which hasn't been achieved due to an uptake for scrapping from the tax industry being low. So there's sort of a low a sort of a resistance, or rather a low progress from the tax industry in making sure that the scrapping of old taxes is fast-tracked. And then we can move on to the next slide. This slide, it's the slide that we've reflected before. It's the achievement of the indicators against the target. I'll move on the slides because we've touched it before in terms of where we are with the MTSF targets as the department. We can move on. And then on this slide, we're looking at the procurement as well as irregular and consequence management for the department. In the current year, we did not have any material findings on the procurement space. However, we noted that through our audits, there were some internal control deficiencies that we've identified on the procurement, but they were not material enough to impact our audit report. So it's a matter of strengthening those internal controls in the procurement space so that they don't end up being a bigger issue as we go forward. And then on an irregular expenditure, we've noted that the department hasn't incurred any new irregular expenditure in the past 3 years. Which is a good thing, which means we're trying to avoid having those irregular expenditure. And then on the closing balance of the irregular expenditure, we can see that we still have the closing balances that is maintained. In terms of the progress on those closing balance, in order to make sure that we deal with it, we've noted that some investigations are still in progress, which means they are still doing some investigations. And in instances where the investigations would have been completed, the disciplinary is still in progress in order to make sure we deal with these closing balances before they can then be condoned and be cleared. We can move on. And then if we're looking at some of the key root causes from the findings that we've identified, as you've noted that the issues and the department were more on a performance information space, when we said root causes might be poor record keeping systems to ensure reported information is submitted, as well as weak internal processes, tools, and systems to verify those performance information that's come from the implementing agents. And then in terms of our recommendations, we just need to make sure that we strengthen those internal controls and make sure that the supporting documents are being secured and also be reconciled with the reported information so that we know that our annual performance report is supported by evidence. And also, as part of the recommendation, we recommend to enhance those verification processes. You also consider utilizing our internal auditors as another part in the ecosystem to provide assurance in those information that's come from the parties, so that we know that the information is being verified by provided assurance before it comes to the annual performance report. And then some of the recommendations, or rather the messages for our portfolio committee. The first one relating to the MTSF targets, which we would have shared before with the committee. However, as a second recommendation is more to say, let's encourage our auditees, including the department, to submit these annual performance plans as early as possible for proactive reviews. This process makes sure that we deal with the performance issues as early as possible through our proactive reviews, so that they can be corrected before they impact the financial period. So to encourage those proactive reviews to be done as early as possible will be important, and also continue monitoring those action plans that will be developed by the accounting offices to make sure that they are root cause basis and also they deal with the findings that would have been raised. Thank you. I will hand over to my colleague to just give us the status on the flood relief funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hlongwane. Over to you, Ms. Mapafudi. Mapafudi, yes. Are you here? Is she here, Ms. Hlongwane?
Yes.
Mr. Hlongwane? Oh.
Yes, Chair, I'm here. I just switched on my camera. I'm not sure if you're able to see my face, just to confirm that I'm not a robot.
No, yeah, we do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the members of the Portfolio Committee. to the colleagues from the department, as well as my leadership and colleagues from the AGSA. And without wasting time, I'm going to highlight a few things on the first slide. This speaks to the accountability ecosystem, zooming into the accountability ecosystem, looking into the disaster management, which includes the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, which is where it starts in terms of the oversight committee and the decision-making processes in terms of what would be done around the disaster management, just looking specifically on the flood issues that were experienced in the KZN and the Eastern Cape. And then it goes down to the national departments as well as the provincial level, where we have the Oversight Governmental Committee on the Disaster Management and the Provincial Disaster Management Centers. So what we highlighting here, Jim, is the role that we play within the accountability ecosystem, which is to provide the insights and influence from the organization as the AGSA. This is aligned to our strategic, our new strategy that we have embarked on, which relates to the culture shift, where we provide this insight in an attempt to influence and to provide more broader view of what we are identifying on the floor, so that when we sharing this insight with the different role players within the accountability system, from the parliament going down to the auditees, the departments, and the different entities that fall within the departments, we are able to share the messages that we are identifying from the work that we're doing as part of the audit, so that it can impact and influence positively the work that is done in order to work towards achieving the mandates of the different entities. And the oversight committees and the executive authorities, they can also play their role as the oversight.
One second. I did advise Mr. Hlongwane not to deal with this one because we are aware of that, but to zoom in terms of the provinces and their findings, because we are dealing with floods. Otherwise,
okay,
we don't have much time. And mind you, we did engage with the AG even the last 2 weeks, and it's a continuation in terms of the core mandate and the ecosystem, how it operates. So just deal with the actual matters that we would have observed. Thank you, if you may.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. All right. So we'll just go straight into it. In relation to the Department of Transport, we're looking into the role that was played by the two entities, which is the SANRAL and PRASA, in relation to the work that had needed to be done for the flood relief funds in relation to the floods or the disaster that occurred in KZN and Eastern Cape. We performed a real-time audit in relation to the funds that had been allocated, and what we have found relating to SANRAL, so there were severe road infrastructure damages, which included the N2 and the N3 national routes, as well as the KZN road network. And what the auditee did, they were responsible for the cleaning up of the roads and restoring road infrastructure. They had planned 8 projects for the SANRAL roads, which 1 had been completed so far, 5 had commenced by the 31st of July 2023. In relation to the KZN network road, which included the M4 as well as the R102, 7 projects were planned, and by the 31st of July 2023, 10 had commenced on those projects. What we had done on our side as part of the audit process, we audited the procurement and the contract management processes, as well as the project management of the 19 awards that we made. What we have identified is that there had been a slow implementation and delays in awarding contracts for the permanent repairs of the road infrastructure, which negatively impacted the economic activities in both the KZN and the Eastern Cape region. The cause of these delays related to the delays in the reprioritization of the budget and changes in the procurement system within SANRAL, and also the the assessment processes, which are stringent, which they needed to make on the damages that had been caused to determine the extent of the damage on the infrastructure. So this caused delays in the commencement of the projects, including the reprioritization of the budgets. It resulted to most awards being awarded around January 2023 and February 2023. So it caused a significant delay as floods occurred around April 2022. So all that time had lapsed without contracts being awarded. However, from SANRAL's side, we had identified that post the awarding of the contracts and commencement of some of these projects since January 2023, all 8 construction projects had commenced on their side. In relation to the finances, they had reprioritized budgets from the non-toll roads, which amounted to 454 million. And by the 31st of July, we had identified that 44.7 million of those funds had been spent. In relation to the budget reprioritized from the toll roads, 365 million had been budgeted or reprioritized rather. And from there, 17 million had been incurred or spent by the 31st of July 2023. And the funds that were received from the for the KZN network road from the Department of Transport allocation, they had a budget of 153 million, and 22 million had been spent by the 31st of July. What we are highlighting as the key message from the work that had been done so far is that we identified that there were the significant delays which were due to the slow implementation of the procurement processes, as well as the assessment processes that SANRAL needed to embark on to identify or determine the extent of the damages that had been caused on the infrastructure. If you may move to the next slide, please. Thank you. In relation to PRASA, so they had identified that there was severe damage to the rail infrastructure, which included 4 rail corridors and 1 bridge. PRASA had planned to repair 4 corridors and 1 bridge. 2 lines were restored and another 2 lines were substantially completed. Work on Ilovo Bridge, however, did not commence, and it needed to be demolished and rebuilt from scratch. What we did as part of the audit process, we audited the procurement and the payments to date and assessed the adequacy of preventative controls to facilitate delivery of the infrastructure at desired quality, time, and budget. We also selected 2 projects, which included the Umlazi to Reunion line recovery and repairs to the Ilovo Bridge. What we had identified was that there were severe disruptions by the construction mafias, which caused delays in recovery process and construction until there were negotiations which were concluded in the favor of the construction mafias. Communities could thus not access rail transport and had to revert to more expensive forms of alternative transport. What caused these delays was the lack of effective and timely response by the safety and security cluster to respond to the disruptions by the construction mafias. Also, the stringent damage assessment processes that needed to be done to determine the extent of the damages on the infrastructure contributed to the commencement of this project. We recommend that the Portfolio Committee expedite the intergovernmental responses to disruptions caused by the construction mafias to avoid delays in critical construction projects. In relation to the budget, there was a budget of 796.4 million, which was reprioritized, and to date, 121.5 million had been spent. This is by the 31st of July 2023. The key message that we would like to draw to the Portfolio Committee in relation to the train services, we are just highlighting that the train services were restored from the Reunion station to Umlazi, although not all full capacity. The revised completion date was the 31st of October 2023. There were no significant concerns noted during the site visit, with construction work being of good quality and appropriate project monitoring taking place. The procurement processes are currently underway for rebuilding Ilovo Bridge, as geotechnical assessment determined that existing infrastructure will have to be demolished. The diesel locomotives were leased to the transport passengers in areas where electrical overhead traction equipment was damaged, and to haul material trains overnight work for infrastructure rehabilitation. The contracts were found irregular and consequence management is in progress. Next slide, please. Lastly, just to highlight on overall messages that we bring in forth. So as part of the work that we had done, we had the floods had a devastating impact on the lived experiences, and it exposed gaps in the government preparedness and coordination of the oversight measures as identified during the real-time audit that we have performed. We remain concerned about the slow response to the disaster. However, we noted traction in the spending on long-term infrastructure repairs, particularly in the PRASA side, and particularly on the road and rail repairs and entities in the transport portfolio. We've identified deficiencies mainly caused by the disruptions by the business forums, and inadequate intergovernmental coordination remain prevalent. We recommend that there be enhancement on the frequency of the engagements from SANRAL side to provide regular updates on the progress made on the implementation of flood relief projects. This engagement should include clear accountability processes for the slow progress to fast-track the implementation of this project. In relation to PRASA, we recommend that obtaining regular updates from PRASA as to the status of the process, particularly in the rebuilding of the Ilovo Bridge. I think this should conclude my presentation, Chair. I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not too sure, Ms. Connie, do you want to say anything like that? Or I shall allow the members to engage?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. No, I think I'm covered. We can take questions from the honourable members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Honourable members, here's the AG's report. We can engage or note it for our better engagement with the department and entities. But I'll just see and look at the board here if there are any hands. So far, there are no hands. There's no mic that is opened, which means, let me then, okay, Honorable Sibisi, your hand is up, sir. I recognize you. Honorable Sibisi. Honorable Ketamabal.
Hello, I think you say Honorable CBS. I don't know who's Honorable CBS.
No, okay, no, you know, I confuse my apology. Honorable Ketamabal Stole, yes. Yeah, no, I know who's Honorable, the late one. May his soul rest in peace. My apology.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to you and members and the Minister and his team and her team. And Honorable Chairperson, I have only one question that I'm trying to check. In their statement from the AG, they say it will be difficult for track the achievement on plan target. I didn't hear why I didn't understand what they mean by that. If they can explain that one. And the other Chairperson on 17 project, 10 had comments, but they say it's 2033. I don't know if they were trying to say 2023 or 2033. I don't know if they can fix that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Can I request that any other member must raise their hand so that I don't call hands more than twice? That would be unfair from my side. Honorable Mapena, that's an only hand. Then we will then proceed then to start our engagement with the department. Over to you, sir.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to colleagues. I think the only thing here is that what was I'm not sure if anyone is saying something, Chair.
No, I'm quiet. I'm listening to you.
Okay, noted. Thank you. The only thing that is a bit concerning is that in terms of the recovery of the KZN disaster reports, is that the AG is reporting that there were delays in terms of the construction caused by construction mafias, and as such, there were negotiations, and the negotiations were in favor of the construction mafias. I think that's a very, very, very dangerous trend if we're going to embark on that. And it's something that we have to raise. Perhaps we must convene an urgent meeting with the portfolio committee on police, invite the police minister and whoever is in the security cluster. Because if the Auditor-General can say that projects are stalled and then there's infrastructure which is vandalized to force the hand of government, and government essentially obliges. South Africa has a policy in terms of, I would liken this to someone that is being kidnapped. South Africa has a policy that, one, they don't negotiate with criminals, and that we don't pay ransom to people who do unscrupulous and criminal activity. But in this case, seemingly, it might not necessarily be the same thing. But the challenge is that they're like saying that negotiations in favor of the construction mafias. I think that's a bit of a concern. There's one other issue that we have picked up in terms of Sanral. There is a 3.1 million rand spent in terms of an international trip for employees to go on an international trip in Prague. And they took 29 employees there.
Can you switch off your video, Honorable Ben?
Goes against the prescripts of is it unstable, Chair?
Thank you, yes.
Not sure, is it better
Now
now?
you may proceed. Yes, I hope so.
Okay, must I repeat or must I just?
No, that international trip, that's where you were.
Okay, yes. So, and also the challenge with that is that, I'm having taken 29 officials, 29. That's a very big delegation to Prague, and at a cost of 3.1 million rands. I just wanted to check from the Auditor General's office, because this also conflicts with Treasury rules in terms of which state that international travel should be kept at a minimum as part of cost containment measures. Is it good practice that you can have it like a state entity taking 29 officials going to an international trip and on things like that? Thanks, Chair.
Okay, but you are putting the AG on the latter part at a very tight corner, because the audit and evidence as to whether it should be kept. I think that one also you still have to flag it, and I know the minister is here, will also come in, but they're at liberty to respond to that. It's more compliance, and also if it was in the plans and all as budgeted for and all that. But I take your point that 29 is quite a school. Back to you, Team AG.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Let me start before the team join. Thank you. I do agree that the department or the ministry is then in a better position to respond on the 29 people that joined the international trip. From our side, as you correctly said, we will look at the evidence, the motivation, the approvals, and then we will take it from there to see whether there was any non-compliance or irregularities in terms of government regulations. I do agree that the 2030, I'm talking on behalf of the team, but I do think it should have been 2023, because that is the year that we are reflecting on. And the plan targets, if it relates, and Sia, maybe you can assist on this one. But what we've noted with the department is a lot of the indicators is dependent on information from third parties. So at the moment, we have seen insufficient systems to collect and verify the information coming from those third parties. And then it becomes difficult to report on those plan targets and to be comfortable that what has been reported is accurate and that is then a real or a valid achievement. In our discussions with the department, and we're also still setting up a follow-up debrief session where we can further engage on the process for the new audit year. We have also advised that internal audit may become a bit closer and maybe assist in some of those verification processes or even assist from the audit side. So we're looking forward to the insights that we're also going to get from that debrief session and the value that we're going to get from the internal audit side. Then the comment that was made on the construction mafia, I don't think, so what we've noted is that there was disruptions delaying the start of the projects. And in the bigger message, we are reporting that there is lack of coordination in government as a whole. So in this case specifically, what we're saying is that there was a slow response from the side of the South African Police Service to come and assist so that the site could be opened up for the process to start and for the repairs to commence. And I think that is the key point that we want to leave is the lack of coordination in the bigger government. And therefore, Chairperson, I do support and appreciate the comment that you've made that maybe there should be follow-up discussions with police so that these types of things can be addressed and that there can be sooner response and more coordination between different entities of government to, at the end of the day, make sure the people of the country, get the services and can get the transport access that they deserve and that is necessary for them to get to where they need to get. Thank you, Chairperson. I think that is the responses from my side. I hope I've covered everything.
No, you have indeed, and the rest will flag it when we engage with the department. We'll do that. Let me just cross-check. I guess we are done. And thank you, honorable members and AG. And thank you very much. You are at liberty to stay for the rest of our meeting, or you may leave if you wish so. But otherwise, keep on doing the good work and ensure that also probably AG, if we can take home, that individuals that get deployed in terms of auditing these technical departments should also, I'm not saying they don't, but it should be also have a little bit of what you call it, technical knowledge, because sometimes you would be given a technical response in terms of how things should work and all that, because even the turnaround delay, taking aside the, what you call it, the mafia construction disruptions, ordinarily there are certain processes that technical also we must measure. How long does it take for feasibility study and all those things so that even the delays, but what we can take home here is that if it's a disaster, South Africa as government, as a country, we must have a better way. How do we respond in terms of the disaster, as it were, so that the victims of the floods also, they don't endure the pain the longest time that is unnecessary, as it were. Because even the monies that is getting used is within the same financial year that needs to be audited. But if then the technical work, the back office, if I may use that word, takes longer than that, what happens then? And I think these floods and disasters have forced us to think outside the box and be creative and have a better compliance regulations and expectations in terms of the processes. Other than that, we are good. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Then, honorable members, we shall now proceed. We are doing very well. In terms of time, in terms of what we envisage, will engage with the AG. Let me now formally again welcome the Honorable Minister Chikunga, as well as DM Manu and your team, with all the entities without singling them out. But to say now we are here, we have indeed received your audited report, because we start with transport. We are confirming that the mere fact that we are engaging with the AG. Second is that there are issues that we have picked up, but we'll engage on them. But also, I must register here, Honorable Minister, the discomfort in terms of the delays and inaccuracies in terms of the reports that necessitated that on Friday's report that was circulated has to also to be amended. But I think that's a very healthy working relationship, that we are also able to pick up the things with the support of the team that we have in committee. But even for you to respond, and I'm sure that you work over the weekend, but I think I must highlight that with all other reasons that you have put that makes the delay, haven't followed the due processes. I'm dealing with this one deliberately for completeness, so that even anyone who's listening and watching us here knows that we have raised these issues, that there are processes, but if we can do our level best not to go for that processes, probably it might be the reasons that there are other predetermined objectives that you would have set up for yourself, which are outside your scope in terms of control, like what do you call it, making transfers, and then, but you are also expected to account for the monies and everything. But the mere fact that the entity that you would have made, or the provincial government, you have made transfers, they took longer in terms of giving you the information that you want. It does then impact on your good standing in terms of compliance and good governance, as it were. We will then, when we also engage with RAF, Honorable Minister, so that we don't come back on behalf of the committee, is our discomfort with the sort of lacking, for a better word, a standoff in terms of the compliance, in terms of our SA requirements of auditing, and also what is used by RAF. But I'm sure you'll talk to that. But also on RAF, that you are still pending the 2021-22 audit report, which means then I'm not too sure how would we, if it's going to be an ongoing concern, how are we going to close our sixth parliament in terms of RAF, as it were, or we'll hand over to the new administration. But nevertheless, I think we must find a closure in that space. I know that RAF exercise their right in terms of taking the matter to court, but probably there would have been a better way to deal with those issues moving forward. But probably we can draw lessons in terms of this as government now generally, not necessarily team transport, as it were. The other one that I think we must just flag it on is the irregular expenditure of 2 years that is the same, but what you have given us, it's more or less identical with the last year's one, which means then there are areas that are stubborn for you to crack. And I hope when you take us through, you'll give us a sense of comfort that we are not going to hand over to the new administration issues that are pending or are stubborn in terms of cracking them for the last 3 years, as it were. But also we note that there are still other pending entities, such as SAMSA, PRASA, and RTIA and RSR, that are still pending. And I hope, Minister, when you do your opening remarks, and you will also just take us to confidence before we get to the presentation itself. With the presentation, just to give guidance, is that we will be gladly happy if we can focus to the areas that pick up the highlights, which are very important, but also those stubborn areas that you underperformed and the reasons, and then also moving forward. You may say that in the current year that is still going to be under review, you are attending to those issues so that also we're able to cross-check and oversight, and also see when we finalize our report, we make a well-informed decisions, as it were, appreciating any other blockages that may be, which needs Parliament to unblock them. With those words and opening remarks, allow me, colleague, to hand over to Minister. I will hand over to you for now so that you do your opening remarks, and then you'll hand over to whoever needs to make a presentation. Thereafter, then we'll bring the meeting back to me so that there is that completeness, so that I don't ask who's going to make a presentation, but you lead in that front so that it becomes neater. Over to you, Honorable Minister, and your team.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just want to request that I switch off my camera for the improved connectivity. Thank
Yes,
you very
indeed. You are not a robot. We can see that. You may, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Transport, my Honorable Mainali Soma, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Deputy Minister of Transport, Honorable Lisa Manu, Director General of the Department of Transport, Advocate James Mlau, all Deputy Directors General and officials of the department, Chairperson of the Road Accident Fund Board, Ms. Lorraine Francois, CEO of Road Accident Fund and members of the Board of Road Accident Fund, Head of the DLCA and the team from the DLCA, representatives of the Auditor-General's office, the advisor to the Minister, Chief of Staff, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are tabling the 2022-2023 annual reports of the Department of Transport, the Driving License Card Account, and the Road Accident Fund. Mindful that these are the last reports we are tabling before the sixth Parliament. However, these are not the last reports of the sixth administration. As you will know, they will be presented to the seventh Parliament, as it usually happens after elections. Chairperson, as promised at the beginning of the financial year and required by the Batupili principles and the principles of public administration and good governance enshrined in Section 196 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, we are here to account and report back transparently on the performance of the Department of Transport, the DLCA, as well as RAF for the 2022-2023 financial year. We had set ourselves targets in the medium-term strategic framework 2021, 2019, 2025, 2024, and today we are here to report back on the sector's performance. For the last financial year, we will also provide reasons for deviation from targets we have not met and corrective measures that will ensure we meet our targets for the 2023-2024 financial year. The country is at a crucial juncture due to sixth administration drawing to a close. Despite the progress made, we have learned that throughout this fiscal year, our response to service delivery has not been as robust as we would like it to be. As a sector, we are working diligently to strengthen our weakest areas. You will recognize, Chair, that our main objective is the delivery of service that citizens can see, can feel, and experience. That, of course, there is something better that happens in their lives. Honorable members, in comparison to the 2021-2022 financial year, improvement in the vacancy rate has been evident during the first 6 months of the 2022-2023 financial year. The vacancy rate remains high, of course, but the rate for top management was reduced with the filling of the position of Director General in November 2022. This appointment ensured the much needed stability in the leadership of the department for the next 5 years. As outlined by the National Development Plan 2030, legislative measures should guide and govern ethical practice in the public service. Building state capacity is understood as the effort to professionalize the public sector. In this regard, during the 2022-2023 financial year, the department managed bursaries in partnership with various universities and tertiary institutions to develop critical skills needed in the transport sector. In turn, these graduates will cultivate their much needed skills for the betterment of the sector. Chairperson, as you know, our department has been tasked with addressing the poor roads in the country, most notably potholes, which were at the heart of most motorists' concerns. Following extensive consultations with all stakeholders, a national and provincial integrated pothole repair program was initiated, and indeed it is currently being underway. This scheme includes roads officials from all levels of government working together to prioritize priority routes that require maintenance and rehabilitation. SANRAL was chosen as the recommended coordinating agency to oversee and coordinate the program's execution, the program that was called and is still called Operation Vala Zonke. An application has been launched in which the public may report potholes. Chairperson, it is worth mentioning that the department has created a substantial number of employment opportunities, including opportunities for persons with disability, women and youth, through infrastructure development and maintenance programs within our sector entities such as SANRAL, AGSA, as well as PRASA, of course, ATNS as well. For the 2022-2023 financial year, the department has incurred an unqualified audit outcome on financial statements, however, with material findings on reported performance information against planned performance. The outcome has highlighted the need for engagement with the Auditor-General, as it has been indicated, of South Africa, and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation with regard to how we present service delivery information in our planning and reporting documents, such that we can ensure consistency, verifiability, and reliability, which were the basis of our auditors' concerns during the audit period. Once there is consensus on this critical matter, there might be a need to revise our APP for the 2023-2024 financial year, and this will form the basis of how we ensure a line of sight between ourselves as a policy and oversight department and our implementing agencies at service delivery levels. Chairperson, it is worth noting that this will have a major effect on our internal control, environment, risk assessment, control activities, and monitoring activities going forward. During the period under review, the driving license card account is a trading entity of the Department of Transport and is charged with the responsibility of producing the driving license cards, continue to demonstrate its resilience and innovative capabilities, despite a number of challenges that continue to confront this entity and its operations. As it is now a publicly known fact, the production of capabilities of this entity are dependent solely on an old and obsolete production machine, which was since purchased back in 1998. The process of replacing this machine has always been delayed because at a time when the machine was due for recapitalization, there was already a consensus that there is going to be a move towards a new driving license card design, and the current driving license card design is going to be discontinued. During the period under review, on the 31st August 2022, the new design of the driving license card was finally approved by Cabinet, and this has now paved the way for major infrastructure upgrades to be rolled out at DLCA. Notwithstanding the old and obsolete nature of the current production machine, during the period under review, DLCA was able to produce 3,407,111 cards. This is a huge improvement in comparison to the 2,695,080, which were produced in the preceding year, which is 2021-2022. This increase in the number of driving license cards produced in the 2022-2023 also translated into an increase in the amount of revenue generated by the entity. And for that reason, the DLCA was able to generate an income of 2,068,000 rands, up from 182 million in the preceding year, which is 2021-2022. Chairperson and members, taking into account the head of entity of the LCA was since appointed and resumed duty on the 1st of July 2023 and has already commenced the process of implementing remedial actions guided by an action plan to ensure that the outcomes of the 2023-2024 financial year are a major improvement from the 2022-2023 financial year, and the institution is reinstated to its previous performance of clean audit attainment and improved non-financial performance outcomes. Chairperson and members, taking note of the annual report, it is worth mentioning that I've concluded a performance agreement with the President for 2023-2024 financial year. The priorities captured in that agreement are mainly a continuation of the work that the sector has been performing over the MTSF. We have just evaluated a few that we have assessed to have high impact on service delivery and on improving the lives of our people. I've committed to monitoring these on a monthly, but also even bi-weekly basis to ensure that I reach my milestone of September 2023 and of course, March 2024. Chairperson, with your indulgence, I would like to invite the Director General to take the committee through a detailed presentation on the department's annual report and also invite the head of the DLCA to brief the portfolio committee on the work of the DLCA. We will come in when the Road Accident Fund is to present its own annual report. I hand over to. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. While the DG wants to clear his throat, honorable members, I've just noticed here that Honorable Minister yesterday, when she was changing her protectors were changing the tire, she was attacked by the thieves. Let me say that, and the thugs to add. But we are happy that the lives were saved, and here she is now. But that shows the resilience, and also she doesn't even indicate what happened. But we are with you in our prayers that you may be protected, and your team, your protectors, and everybody else, so that you can continue doing work for the South Africans. We are sorry, we should have made that statement. I've only picked it up now from Advocate Nell, and thanks, Advocate Nell. But we are with you, and we thank God that you are alive and you are one piece with all other people that works around you. With that, DG, you may come in.
Maybe, Chairperson, thank you very much for that indeed. I'm in one piece, but the whole experience was very traumatizing, devastating, and it was bad. It was around 3:30 in the morning, and we had a puncture, and we drove for quite a longer distance, but ultimately we had to stop because the puncture was getting damaged to the extent that it was the rim now that was on the road. So they changed the tire. When they were just putting back the bags and the tire, then I was sitting in the car, of course. Then I could hear that there was something happening. When I looked out, indeed there were people, and with guns pointing at the protectors. They could have done anything because they came behind them with guns already pointed at them. So they ordered them to sleep, which I think it was the best thing for them to do. And then they came to the door, opened my door, because at the time I realized that there was something happening. I tried to take my phone and try to phone. Just even before I could do anything, they opened the door and pointed a gun at my head and ordered me to come out. It was 3 well-dressed, not the para type of a criminal. Got me to sit, and then they just asked for money. Amongst the things they said, which I think it's worth taking note of, was that we know that you have money, give us money. And I said, I don't carry money with me. I only have 200 rand in my bag. As a matter of fact, honestly, I don't carry money, cash in my bag. So they opened the bag and they found that, and there was a cell phone. Remember, I tried to phone, so the cell phone was just there on the seat. So then the one who was opening, when I got out of the car, I looked at this person. He had gloves on, but I looked at him. I think I can recognize his face, even if he had the balaclavas on. But then I didn't want to continue doing that because I thought maybe he's going to shoot me if he realizes that I can't recognize him. And then there were three, the others were pointing fingers, and then the one who was at the door at the seat, then ordered them to take anything, take cell phones, take whatever. They had some money that they found from the protectors, but they did not search the front seat of the car, of my car. And somewhere one of them said, "Who is your protector?" I don't know what that means. One, they say we know you have got money. Two, they asked me as to who is my protector. The ordinary South Africans will not refer to protectors as bodyguards. You must be a member of parliament, or you must be a police member, or somebody who knows the working of government, that you know that the people that look after us are protectors. They are not bodyguards. Because there were two cars, they checked on the other car, they found something that showed them that these are police. They searched them, they'd taken their firearms anyway. There was my brother there. They didn't search my brother. So they searched the two protectors, but not my brother. They didn't. And they protect us because they were just coming to fetch me. They were not dressed formally. You know, they were dressed in well decent, but informally, like my brother. But they did not search my brother. They didn't touch me, except when they were about to leave, where one saw my ring. And I think because now they were taking anything that they thought it has got some value. He then tried to take out my ring, and I said, no, but this is the only thing that I have. Because when he failed to take it out, he then pointed a firearm. And at that time, I was scared that they can actually really shoot, because they were to leave. So they had nothing to lose. They would shoot and kill and then run away. They'd taken everything. And I said, but this is the only thing I have between my late husband and myself. I value it so much, please. And he said, okay, Mamzo. And then off they left. When they were leaving, then one other said, there are police members here, and I hate police. I just feel like killing the police. And off they go. I don't know whether that was maybe trying to make us think that it's ordinary criminals or what. I don't know what was that. But then off they left. At the time when they were actually crossing the road, if we had a firearm, we could have shot and killed them, because they were not even looking at the back. Because I think at the time they knew that they've taken the firearms and everything, and they were speaking Zulu, but they could understand English. So when they actually saying, "Sifuni mali," I responded to say, but I don't carry cash. They understood what I was saying, but insistently, continuously, they were speaking proper Zulu. And then off they went. It's decent boys. They could be around the ages of late 20s or early 30s. Well dressed, smelling, no bad smell that you can think it's your para. No, it's not. They are eat. So even if they didn't have firearms, if you would want to fight back, it would mean that you are serious about it. But that was it. It was very devastating. I think it was traumatizing. But I'm okay now. I'm alive. Cell phone was stolen. The laptops, they were stolen. In my brother's bag, they took his bag. Said, please take out the laptop, because that bag has got the work documents. And they put it down. They took out the laptop. not realizing that there is also an iPad. So they took the laptop and left the bag. Fortunately, the iPad as well was inside, which is what we used to call after they left. So that was our experience. But we are fine. We are healthy. We are alive. God's grace is upon us. I prayed when I came out of that. When I said, "Oh God," they said, "Hey, keep quiet." It was a horrible experience, but we are alive. God had mercy on us. Nobody was touched. I was the only woman who was scared of everything, including lips and all. But they never touched me either. Then at the time we tried to take out the ring. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Honorable Minister, even just to take us through that. It's very traumatic. I can imagine at 3 a.m. But thanks God that all of you guys and your team are alive and sound. Yeah, that's life. May we then, as we agreed, then DG, over to you, Advocate. And unmute your good sir.
My apologies, Chair. Good morning to members, Minister, PM, members of the committee. Our presentation, with your permission, Chair, will be in 3 parts. The first will be the strategic performance, which will be led by GM Stratplan. I hope GM Ramansi is on the call. We will then follow with a portion from the DLCA, and I hope we've kept it at quite high level. The part with Mr. Ramansi will really look at what we've delivered and where we've underperformed and give a comparator where possible. The final part will be the CFO, really giving a high level how the financial performance for the time has been. With your permission then, Chair, in that order. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
And members.
Okay, no. Thank you very much. Then they must note that the protocol has been observed. They just need to stand over that protocol that the minister made earlier on.
Thank you, Chairperson. All protocol observed. I'm going to move quicker with the presentation. Commiserations to the Minister for the ordeal that she went through. If I hit straight into the presentation, Chair, as I stated, I'll just touch on the salient points and make sure that I don't take too much time. I'll just hop straight into the slide that talks to the overview. Is the annual report of the Department of Transport that captures the work that happened between the 1st of April 2022 and the 31st of March 2023 in accordance with the MTSF. Chair, just briefly, this is a summary of our organizational performance. We're performing at 77% with a non-performance at 23%. This was presented by the auditors as well. In terms of persons with disabilities, we are on 2.1%, which was the target that was set by government. But in our consultation with the Department of Women, we know that the targets will be taken up so that we can ensure that we employ more of persons with disabilities. The vacancy rate of the department, I'll touch a bit on that in the other slide, is on 23.62, together with the turnover rate at 6.96. And women in the SMS, the target is 50%. We're sitting on 41.6%. Chair, if I go to the analysis, you'll see that for the performance for the period under review, we had 70 targets. For the period under review, we met 54 of those targets. There's 16 areas where we did not meet our targets, and our overall performance, as stated, is sitting at 77%. Just to compare it with the previous financial year, you'll see that in 2019-20, we were performing at 90%. We increased our performance to 91% in 2020-2021. And our performance was at 93 on 21-22. It's safe to note that on those 3 years, Chair, on the audit of performance information, we were clean, and 22-23, we were performing at 77%, mainly on issues as presented by the auditors, where most of the impacted performance was on the secondary information that we then collect from our entities and from our provinces in that regard. Per program chair, there are areas where we've made tremendous strides. I'll just zoom into the main areas that I want to highlight for the committee. In terms of the filling of vacant positions, chair, for the period under review, 84 vacant positions were filled. 33 were internal promotions, 44 were new appointments, and 7 were lateral transfers. The vacancy rate of the department as at the 31st of March was sitting at 23.62. And if we disregard the unfunded positions, which are still on the establishment, we should be sitting on 18.39. And as stated, the turnover rate is at 6.96. I just created this slide just to provide context on how far we have moved since the start of the MTSF, chair. You'll see that in 2019-20, we filled 55 positions. In 2020-21, 28 positions. 21-22, 61 positions. And in 22-23, we filled 84 positions. The total positions that we filled since 2019-20, chair, are sitting at 228. However, chair, there is a turnover rate in the department that impacts on our performance. It's currently in this financial year sitting at 6.96. It's impacted on by deaths of officials, resignations, expiry of contracts, dismissals, discharge due to ill health, retirements, transfers to other departments, and so on. And it's impacted on the vacancy rate. On the last column there, we're just highlighting how we've been fluctuating with the vacancy rate. You'll see that in 21-22 it rose to 24.31, and but currently it went down again after the appointment of 84 to 23.62, chair. If I go to the area where we have not met our target, before, let me just do the unauthorized expenditure. You'll realize that we did not incur any unauthorized expenditure as the Department of Transport for the period under review. And the first area where we did not meet our target, chair, is the area of the responses to parliamentary questions. 295 out of 347 questions were responded to. And we missed 52 replies in terms of submitting them on time. To that regard, we've taken a stance to develop a corrective time frame with standards so that we can share it across the sector. Some of the questions, as we receive them, we channel them to our entities, and some need information from our implementing agent as provinces, and in certain cases it takes time to compile that information. But the corrective framework will then highlight how we deal with this so that we can be able to meet our timelines. Our performance rate was at 85% against a target of 100%, so we were 15% less than what we had targeted for ourselves. We'll go to slide 23, chair. On fruitless and wasteful expenditure, chair, we incurred 4 cases. And the 2 of the cases have been transferred to debt, and 2 cases have been written off. The target is to reduce the cases of fruitless and wasteful expenditure by 50% based on the baseline of 2019. Chair, the baseline for 2019-18 was 48 cases. We have reduced the cases to 29 that are currently sitting in our register. And that talks to a 39.6 reduction rate against the 50% target that we've set for ourselves. So it's an underperformance of 10.4, lower than what we had targeted ourselves. The last column will just highlight the corrective measures that we have put in place, chair, to make sure that we move on this one. If I move quicker, chair, on the issues on the 30-day payment principle, chair, the for the period under review, the total supply payments were 11,716. We were able to pay 10,923 within 30 days, meaning that 793 payments missed the 30-day compliance time frame. We have looked at our internal controls, and there are areas that we are correcting in that space to make sure that we actually meet the 100% that we have targeted ourselves. Just as a way of comparing with the over the MTSF, Chair, you'll see that over the MTSF, the total number of supply payments that we made were 45,809. 42,637 of those were paid within 30 days, which translated to a 93% success rate. However, 3,172 of the 45,809 were not paid over the 30 days. You'll see that in financial years 2021 and 2022, we were on 97% in terms of paying within 30 days. It's something that we are working on, improving our internal controls to make sure that we hit the 100% as we have targeted for ourselves. If we move to slide number 2, to the second program, Chair, very quickly, I'll move to slide 30. In terms of the autonomous vehicle technology, Chair, the legislative gap analysis was conducted, and we have developed a framework, and this will then inform how we developed regulations that are going to assist us to regulate the space. And also with the electric vehicles regulation, a framework for the regulations have been developed as targeted. With regard to the ERT bill, Chair, the ERT bill was published for public consultations by the NCOP. To date, provincial legislatures have been briefed. On the 8th of November, mandate negotiations will be conducted by the NCOP, and we expect final mandates by all provincial legislators by the 22nd of November. If I move quicker, Chair, the area of NANA performance in the program 2, it's with regard to the regional integration strategy. It was not submitted to cabinet as targeted due to prolonged stakeholder consultation. It is now being fast-tracked through the cluster process so that it can be submitted to cabinet within this financial year. If I move quicker to the third program, rail transport, Chair, I'll move to slide 35. The Railway Safety Bill, provincial public hearings have been conducted in 8 provinces. The process is currently in the NCOP. And if you move to slide 36, in terms of the rolling stock fleet renewal program, the 57 new train sets were provisionally accepted in the 22-23 financial year. Cumulatively, the number of train sets that have been manufactured were 146 as at the end of the financial year. And if you go to slide 37, the areas of non-achievement, the National Rail Bill was not submitted to cabinet. It had delayed in external vetting by the state law advisor, and we are fast-tracking engagement with the state law advisor in the current financial year so that we can be able to go to cabinet. Slide 38 and 39, Chair, is the PSP framework and the HSR framework. They also missed their submission to cabinet, and these are currently being fast-tracked into cabinet. They've exhausted all their cluster and CS processes in this regard, Chair. I'll move quicker to slide 41, the road transport. Just to touch on the General Laws Amendment Bill, it was developed as targeted in the period under review. Just the latest is that we have received a legal opinion that the General Laws Amendment Bill needs to be separated into individual bills, as these individual in the bills that are in the General Laws, they fall under different sections, Section 75 and 76 of the Constitution. To that regard, they should then be separated into individual bills. The due diligence report on the integration of the DLCA, RTMC, and the RTA was also developed in this regard. The National Road Traffic Amendment Bill is currently in Parliament. Consultation with provincial legislators have been conducted in this regard, so it's with the NCOP. Section that the slide 43 and 46 is data on the national and provincial road maintenance and jobs created in the space. I'll just skip the slides as they will provide information also in the annual report. Slide 47, Chair. This is the area where we did not meet our target in the road space. The road infrastructure funding policy was not submitted to cabinet as was targeted, and due to a need for further engagement with the National Treasury, and these engagement are prioritized in the current financial year. If you go to Program 5, Civil Aviation, Chair, I'll move quicker to slide 49, just to highlight that we are continuing the process of reviewing the regulations for the ARPAS, the remotely piloted aircraft system, our drones, and we have a status report in this regard. Some of the regulations have been passed, and the others will follow as we go through the process. If I go quicker to slide 52, this is the area where we did not meet our target, the SASA bill. Remember, Chair, this is the bill that we were amending at one point, and we were advised that the amount of amendments that we are doing on the bill are tantamount to us repealing the whole act. So this is the process of repealing the act and introducing a new one. So we experienced legal vetting also by the state law advisor, and we are now in the process of fast tracking this process and also ensure that we attain the CS that is needed in this regard. If I go to maritime, Chair, I'll go quickly to slide 54, just to highlight that these are the areas of our bills that are in Parliament. The Maritime Development Fund bill is undergoing cabinet processes, and a letter for consultation has been sent to Treasury as per the Cabinet Committee recommendation. The Merchant Shipping Bill, it's in Parliament. The notice of intention to introduce it in the Parliament has been published, and MAPOL deliberations on the bill they were finalized, and the bill will proceed to other relevant houses. If I go quickly to slide 58, it will represent the two areas of non-achievement on the maritime space. One is the model for a national shipping company that was not developed as targeted. There were delays in finalizing the memorandum of agreement with the Development Bank of South Africa, and now there's a need to amend the terms of reference and the business case to be in line with the developed MOU. Corrections, active actions are being taken and fast-tracked in the current financial year. And the next one is the National Maritime Security Strategy, also not approved for submission to Cabinet due to prolonged stakeholder consultations. With this one, it's just due to the SA Navy. There was a change of leadership in the SA Navy, and now we have fast-tracked these consultations, and we are prioritizing that the strategy would be in Cabinet by the end of the second and third quarter. If we move quicker, Chair, to public transport, slide 61 to 63 covers the data for the IPTN. It's mainly issued for the single ticketing system that has been monitored in both Rustenburg and Polokwane. The cities operating integrated public transport systems have been monitored. Currently, the average weekday passenger trips amount to 281 across the 8 operating cities. The norms and standards have been published as targeted, and the 100% compliance with special referencing has been reported in the space, and also 100% compliance with the universal design norms and standards have been reported in this space, Chair. If I go to slide 64, Chair, I just need to highlight on the TAT amendment bill that it's before Parliament and was in the order of paper, and it was deliberated in the National Assembly. And if I go to slide 66, just to highlight that the public transport funding model, the draft of that has been developed. If I go quicker to slide 70, Chair, the areas where we have not met our target, it's the subsidy policy. not submitted to cabinet. There was a need for further consultations, and also the taxi scrapping. We had targeted to scrap 3,750 old taxi vehicles. We have only scrapped 2,576. Those that were submitted for scrapping, as it was also pronounced by the auditors. What we're doing as a corrective measure, Chair, is that we are setting out. We have set out a cutoff date of end of March 2024 for those that need to be submitted for scrapping. And if they are not submitted for scrapping, they will then not be issued with an operating permit, and as such, they will be exposed to law enforcement because they will be operating illegally. The other part of underachievement is on the distribution of bicycles on the Shova Kalula program. We had targeted 8,000 by the end of the financial year. We had only distributed 2,901 in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal, and we had underperformed by close to 5,099 due to delays in finalization of the procurement of the bicycles. We are actually running a catch-up program in quarter 1 and quarter 2, and to that regard, when we come and present our quarter 2, we will then highlight to the committee how far we've distributed thus far. Chair, if you go to slide 73 until slide 92, is the consolidated indicators where we captured information at service delivery level, and slide 93 until 98 is the performance of our conditional grants, the PTOG, PTNG, PRMG, and RAMS. The information is on the slide, and on slide 109, that's where we've captured our governance areas with how we deal with our risk management, how we deal with fraud and corruption in the department through implementation of anti-corruption pillars, your fraud prevention, fraud detection, investigation, and resolution. We also have the control to minimize conflict of interest, and also the code of conduct assist us in this regard. Chair, if I move quickly to slide 120, just to touch on some of the issues of our human resource overview. The total establishment in the department is 890 posts, 675 were filled as at 31 March 2023. The total of 505,337 million, which is 90.5% of the budgeted compensation of employees was spent. And as at the 31st of March, we had 6 employees additional to the establishment, Chair. And the turnover rate stated it was 6.96, which was a jump from 6.56 that was reported in the previous financial year. Slide 123, Chair, we're just representing there what our employment equity status looks like in terms of African males, African females. So the information is there for your consideration. I just want to move quickly, Chair, to slide 126, just to cover the issues of our labor relations. Misconduct and disciplinary hearings that we finalized, we had 6 of them. There were 6 written warnings, 2 final written warnings issued, and also there were 2 cases that were withdrawn. In terms of grievances, a total of 20 were lodged, 16 were resolved, and 4 were not resolved. Dispute, we had only 1 dispute, and no strike actions, and 1 precautionary suspension recorded for the period under review. Chair, slide 127. The auditors have already spoken to the issues that were on the report. Just to highlight at the top that we reported material findings in the audit of performance information. As stated, Chair, it mainly pertains to the consistency, verifiability, and reliability of secondary information that we receive from our entities and provinces as implementing agent. And going forward, we're going to deliberate with both the AGSA and DPS and DPME on how we can represent service delivery information in our planning and reporting document. As the minister stated, there might be a need to look at our current APP and revise it. So we might come back and retable it, and so that we can be able to avoid the same type of risks that we do not have control over. Chair, I think those are the issues that I wanted to touch on. I'll then bring in the head of the DLCA to take on the slides for the DLCA. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chairperson and members, the Minister, and the DOT team. Chairperson, with your permission, I'm going to then switch off my screen and I will leave the audio just to go through the presentation.
Okay, permission.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, my name is Tsolofelo Lejaka. I'm the head of DLCA, effective from the 1st of July, 2023. I'm joined in this meeting by the two colleagues, the current acting CFO, Mr. Nwako Rapolo, who joined us on the 1st of October as a seconded staff member from DOT, as well as the former acting CFO, who is an employee of our sister entity, RTMC, and he was seconded from the 1st of September until the end of the period under review, and also presided over the audit outcomes that we are now presenting as part of this annual report. Chairperson, I think the Minister has already done justice to the situational analysis to characterize the period under review, highlighting specific things, but maybe just to pay for the presentation, just to emphasize as well that for the period under review, we have been able to print 3.4 million cards, up from 2,600,000 cards in the previous year. Our revenue has increased to 285 million, up from 182 million in the previous year. We've been able to surrender funds, 175 million, to the National Revenue Fund. And we've also been able, Chairperson, during the period under review, to finally secure cabinet approval for the new driving license card design. This happened on the 31st of August, 2022. We've also kicked off the smart enrollment solution, the proof of concept thereof, in the two DLTC centers, the driving license testing centers of Waterfall and Eco Park, respectively. Chairperson, we indicating there under organizational environment that firstly, our audit outcomes have regressed compared to the previous year, something that we're not too happy about, but we regard that as a challenge for us to work even harder to ensure that we turn the situation around. By and large, Chair, the regress in outcomes is attributed to the fact that at management level during period under review, the organization suffered an 80% turnover. You can imagine, Chairperson, in a management team of 5 people, if during period under review, 4 of them leave the organization, it will obviously impact on the capacity, but it would also erode the institutional memory. The situation could have been bad, but I think my predecessor and the colleagues really did hold the fort. We can go to the next slide. And the next one, I think we've already covered on that. Chairperson, we then indicate there that with the increase of the driving license cards that we printed during the year, we've been able to raise our surplus. So when you look at our budget of 225 million, we spent 203 million from a revenue collection of 285 million, meaning that we made a surplus of 82 million during the specific period under review. You take that 85 million, add it also with 93 million of the money we had in the reserves before. It is for that reason that 175 million was taken by the National Revenue Fund during period under review. We also indicate in Chair on the slides that is on the screen now that DLCA had intended during period under review to kickstart recapitalization of its assets, specifically 2 major interventions in that regard. Firstly, to procure the new driving license card machine, the printing machine. And then secondly, to recapitalize the equipment of DLCA that are stationed at the DLTCs. So those 2 major recapitalization projects, we titled them the new printing machine acquisition, as well as the smart enrollment unit equipment acquisition. We have now, during this period, Chairperson, which is outside the reporting period, concluded the smart enrollment acquisition, and we are currently in the process of concluding the procurement process for the new driving license machine. Members could ask, why did we delay that much to replace this old and obsolete machine that we have had since 1998, and which has in the past made headlines having broken? The reason for that, Chairperson, is because for us to replace that machine, we needed to have concluded the design of the new driving license card. And that process, as indicated, was only signed off and approved by Cabinet in August 31st, 2022, thereby allowing us to develop specification for the type of machine that we need to procure. We can go again now. Chairperson, we've already spoken to the capacity constraints, which we have indicated about the old machine that the DLCA has. And I think specifically, Chair, with regard to that machine, what we want to indicate here is that members would remember that in the period 2021-22, there were headlines that spoke to the machine having broken, and as a result, we had backlog of driving license cards that could not be printed during the downtime. The same situation occurred again between April and May this year, where we accumulated a backlog of more than 512,000 cards. Chairperson, that called for us to go into business unusual, which meant that we had to push the machine overdrive and to allow our staff members to work overtime. We are proud, Chairperson, to indicate that at this point in time, that backlog that the public was worried about has been reduced down to zero as at the end of October. And this slide, Chairperson, just indicates what should be the ordinary capacity that we run on and how we have had to improvise to ensure that we resolve that backlog and no South Africans are devoid of the driving license cards, which they had already gone through the DLTCs to order. You can go to the next one. Chairperson, I think in this slide, this speaks to the process of rationalization of entities. Members would recall that in the beginning of the 6th administration, the President did pronounce on a need to review the public service and to streamline it, to eliminate duplicated functions. As a result thereof, the Minister of Transport then instructed that we must also review the various entities in the transport portfolio, something that we now call the rationalization of entities. The priority sector in this case was the roads, and the entities that were earmarked was key, the RTMC, DLCA, as well as RTIA in the main. In that regard, during the period under review 2022-2023, a lot of work had been done to prepare the rationalization of RTMC and DLCA, something that would have seen an integration of the function of driving license testing and the testing and licensing of drivers. So the function that DLCA is currently responsible for would then have been integrated in the RTMC. At some point, Chairperson, we were ready to conclude this in the previous financial year, but
at some point, Mr. Lichaka, I thought we'll take the same approach that Mr. Ramatzi has done, but nevertheless, you may proceed. It's just a cut that I'm giving you.
No, thanks, Chair. I will summarize from here on. I just needed to paint that context. So, Chair, this issue of rationalization of entities, the reason it's important because it had obviously a big impact on the business process of DLCA during period under review. So this slide just seeks to speak to that. We can go to the next one. Chairperson, the smart enrollment solution, in this case, Chair, this is the indication that we are making that during period under review, DLCA was able to conclude the proof of concept of this smart enrollment solution, which is really an automated one-stop service for driving license application and renewal. As I indicated, we ran the 2 centers in Waterfall and Eco Park. We are now, during the current financial year, in the process of rolling out this smart enrollment in the identified sites across all provinces. But I think the big achievement in the previous year was to kickstart the proof of concept and to pilot this in the space in the mentioned centers. We can go to the next one. The next 3 slides, Chairperson, I think we can go through that because this is just an elaboration of the smart enrollment and what it entails. You can go to the next one, and that one you can jump again. Chairperson, I think here what we are indicating on the, let's go back. What we are indicating is that, Chairperson, the DLCA, whilst mindful of the fact that we need to recapitalize our assets, our reality is that we wouldn't have enough funds in our reserves for that purpose. And as a result, we have already started negotiations with the National Treasury because our surplus over the years had been taken by National Treasury with an indication that as and when we are ready to procure the new printing machine, we can then liaise with Treasury for that purpose so that we can recapitalize. So that is what the slides refer to. We can go to the next slide. Chairperson, we then just indicate that in the financial year 2021-2022, DLCA had 13 audit findings, 12 of which were resolved. The one that was not resolved is the review and approval of policies. And really the reason for that was because of rationalization. The anticipation was that at some point DLCA would have been merged or integrated into RTMC. Hence, the review of policy was not concluded. But this is the work that we are currently seized with to ensure that all audit findings of the previous year are resolved. We can go to the next one. Chairperson, we then just indicating here the work that we are doing to support the DLTCs. We do receive CAT-related queries. 100% of all CAT-related queries were attended to within 7 working days, which is the service delivery charter prescript in that regard. Enrollment equipment maintenance, we achieved 98% to maintain all enrollment equipment. And Chair, we also need to sign service level agreements with the respective provinces. 8 of those were signed and only 1 province could not sign during period under review. Not because of any intransigence on their side, but because there had been a change at the accounting officer level at a time when this was supposed to be signed. Hence, we could not achieve it. We can go to the next one.
You are focusing to 2022-23 audit report, I guess.
Yes,
so
Chair.
You'll say the targets were 20, then we have achieved 19, and that's how you are going to report, and the one and give account and a sense of comfort how we're going to address it.
Most certainly, Chairperson.
Okay.
Chairperson, in this slide, we're indicating an overachievement in our card production statistics. We printed 3.4 million cards. The target was 2 million. And the reason why we overachieved was really because of the backlog. You'll remember we came out of COVID, so most members had not renewed. So in the previous financial year, 22-23, the volume of license application renewals went up, hence that overachievement by more than 1.4 million as opposed to what the target was. We can go to the next one. The next slide, Chairperson, really just give a breakdown of the statistics. I think we can jump there, Chairperson, because it is the detail of what constitutes the 3.4 per province, as well as the delivery turnaround times. We are also, Chairperson, in terms of our indicators, supposed to measure the times that we take between 2 things. Firstly, between when we receive enrollment data, we've got 14 days to print and produce driving license cards. Then we do have 7 days to deliver the driving license card, which means that a typical South African walking to a center has 21 days to have his or her own card back at the driving license testing center. Then obviously receive a notification that says that they must collect, and that is the breakdown of that information. We can go to the next one. This, Chairperson, indicates also something that we are also measuring. During the year under review, 100% of driving license and related queries received by the DLTC were attended within 5 working days. This is a performance indicator that we also are supposed to report on, Chairperson, because any business interruption at the DLTC center has a major impact in the public. So DLCA being the owner of the equipment at the driving license testing centers, we have a duty to ensure that we resolve any query or maintenance related within 5 working days. We can go to the next one. You can move the Chairperson, just to report on governance issues, we indicate here, Chairperson, that during the period under review, we had an audit committee whose term ended in this financial year, 31st May. The process to reconstitute the audit committee has commenced, and it is already at finality. We also had an internal audit function which served as quality assurer for the internal audit committee, and that's what we are reporting on. In the next slide, Chairperson will then be touching on the area of deficiencies with the audit committee picked up mostly around policies and procedures and compliance monitoring. This is now part of the audit action plan that we are implementing, Chairperson, to ensure that we address those gaps. Let's go to the next one. Chairperson, with your permission, I will then invite the CFO, Mr. Ngoba, to just take over the next 3 slides, Chair, and summarize on the audit outcomes and the financials.
Thank you, Mr. Lechaga. Good morning, Chair and honorable members. Can we move from this slide and this one as well, because these ones have already been covered by the head. So, Chair, I would just highlight on the few findings that the Auditor-General has identified, which has led to the regression, as the head have mentioned. So the first one, it was just a misalignment of amounts in the cash flow, Chair. It's not as if something was missing or not, but instead of a receivable, it was a payable, vice versa. So that correction resulted into 0, Chair. And then the other finding was based on contingent liability, which we didn't disclose due to misunderstanding and misinterpretation of National Treasury instructions, where it speaks of the surrendering of funds. So we were under the impression, Chair, that since we were in discussions with National Treasury, and also since we are in a process to procure the new production card machine, which is the process is underway, we're under the impression that we didn't have to disclose contingent liability because those funds were approved by National Treasury in the prior year to be used for that machine. So we then had disagreements with the Auditor-General. However, we could not then prove our position, and as a result, we then had to amend the financial statements. So those two findings, then the Auditor-General assessed them as material, and as a result, our audit outcome was then unqualified with material adjustments, which resulted from those two findings. And then the third finding, Chair, it was the non-compliance with the 30 days payments of suppliers. There were 13 invoices that were identified in the current period, which were not processed on time or within 30 days. Out of the 13, management was able to identify 7 of those findings, and the Auditor-General identified the difference. So when we engaged with the Auditor-General, they mentioned that the finding is significant, as much as it might not be material in terms of quantity, however, qualitatively so, it is material, and as a result, it was a non-compliance with legislation. So, Chair, these are the only 3 findings that were identified, which has led to the regression. However, I would like to also put it to the sitting that the current acting CFO, he's working tirelessly to make sure that the 30 days payment is complied with, and he has put in place systems and processes to make sure that those are taken care of. And in terms of the financial statement findings, there's also processes which emanates from review, where internal audit is also involved, where they will review the financial statements as and when on a quarterly basis and annual basis, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Team DOT. Honourable members, let's now go to RAF so that we can deal with them all at a go, because I know some of the issues, they overlap with the department in RAF. If we may proceed.
Maybe, Chairperson.
Minister.
Very much, Chair. On the RAF matter, Chair, I do know and maybe want to mention that the Road Accident Fund has come to be known as the caring arm of team transport by alleviating the financial suffering and burden on millions of road crash victims, as well as their loved ones. Fundamental to RAF's mandate is an enormous task of mitigating the adverse impact of road crashes, not only on our economy, but most importantly, the victims. Serious mental or bodily injuries sustained through a road crash may result in loss of income, but also loss of life, serious injuries, and this can likely drive many people into abject poverty and suffering. The Road Accident Fund is thus called on to receive, process, and pay claims to provide indemnification to those injured on our South African roads. However, it is worth noting that the Road Accident Fund's interventions are not solely about financial support, but means of empathy. The RAF is expected to provide solace and rehabilitation to victims of road crashes over their loss, over their pain, and over their suffering. When the South African government established RAF, it envisaged an organization that would give hope to many afflicted South Africans, as well as curtail the disillusionment that typically accompanies the misfortune of serious road crashes. Chairperson, the multi-billion rands allocated to the Road Accident Fund could be invested in programs that stimulate economic growth. However, we use this because of the many accidents that happen on our roads, which means if we were to have it right on our roads, we can reduce accidents on our roads, then of course we will not need all this money that is paid to victims of road crashes. Looking at the RAF's business and financial performance, we note that the 2020-2025 strategic journey and performance was overshadowed by the continued dispute between the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor-General of South Africa, emanating from the RAF's new accounting policy. We are grateful that the audit process for the financial year 2022-2023 reached its final conclusion. Although it is the adverse audit outcome, which of course is not favorable, but Chairperson, that they reached the conclusion, at least we are happy about that. This was for the financial statement, but of course, if you look at their performance, the Road Accident Fund, on a number of issues, it received a clean audit, which we are happy about. We are hopeful that for the 2023-2024 audit process, all parties concerned will work amicably towards a positive outcome, taking note of the RAF's commendable performance in its set strategic targets, as I've indicated, they got clean audit. For the year under review, the RAF had 4 strategic goals with 23 outcomes. The RAF achieved 21 of the 23 outcomes, thus performing at 91%, which of course, Chairperson, is an improvement from 84% in 2021-2022, an improvement from 78% in 2020-2021, and an improvement from 57% in 2019-2020. So indeed, 91% is what we are happy about, because indeed it is an improvement on the side of Road Accident Fund. Chairperson, on the outcome of the RAF receiving an adverse audit outcome from the Auditor-General, this is said to be based on the claims liabilities, claims expenditure, and related disclosure notes, which according to the report were due to the RAF's new accounting policy that recognizes claims liabilities in accordance with International Public Sector Accounting Standards, that is IPSAS 42, social benefits instead of GREP reporting framework for public entities. Consequently, claims liabilities, claims expenditure, and related disclosure notes are said to be understated. I'm made to understand that the court hearing date have been set for January and February 2024, as the parties involved could not find each other. Chairperson, I must again indicate that both the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor-General were advised, even by the former minister, to find an amicable solution and settle this matter out of court. It seems that that did not happen. Our view, Chairperson, is that there will be no winners when this matter is being settled by court. And therefore, we're still insisting that as much as it is possible, they can find an amicable solution on this matter, particularly if Road Accident Fund, the Auditor-General, and the Accounting Standard Board can sit together amicably so and try to find a solution. On my side, I've decided, Chair, to go the route of seeking an independent legal opinion so that this can actually guide us on the way forward. As this moment, Chairperson, having said all this, and we can then request that we hand over to the board chairperson. We appointed a new board this year, and we would want to thank the work of the former board that provided us with the opportunity at least to have the audit that is finalized, and we're therefore able to table the report to Parliament. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I hand over to the chairperson of the board of RAF.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the committee, the Honorable Minister, Ms. Chikunga. Minister, we're deeply sorry about your ordeal. I'd also like to recognize the Deputy Minister, Mr. Mangu, and the DG, all protocol observed. Chairperson, I'm Zanele Lorraine Francois, the new chairperson of the Road Accident Fund Board. Chair, I don't want to waste too much of your time. We have with us some of our board members, the CEO of the RAF, and some of his executive team. I'd like to note your concern over the pending matter and the dispute with the Auditor-General. I think the Minister have correctly articulated on it, and also thank you, Minister, for that articulate opening address. I will not waste too much time on that. But Chairperson, I'd like to state that we will, as a new board, try and continue finding alternative ways of resolving this matter, despite the fact that the matter is already in court. As the Minister said, you know, there's no end in trying to resolve matters outside of court. So we will continue making those alternative ways. And I'd also like to state that we are happy with the professional and amicable manner that the past audit has been handled, resulting in this process being finalized for the 2022-2023 financial year. And we also note that the current refund relationship is a foundation for us to build upon to continue with the discussions with the Auditor-General. And without wasting too much time, I'm happy to present our annual report for the 2022-2023 financial year, covering the financial and non-financial information. Both have been audited, finalized, signed off, and the board approved the same on the 26th of October, and the AGM was held on the 2nd of November. I will now hand over to the CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Mr. Letsoalo, to take us through the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Before Mr. Letsoalo, Minister, your team, they didn't present the financials, the OT. As soon as RAF has finished, after their CFO, then I'll request the OT CFO or through whoever who present the financials for just 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Mr. Letsoalo, you may come in, sir.
Yes, good morning. Still morning. 1 minute to afternoon. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to all the members of the Portfolio Committee, Minister, the Deputy Minister, and colleagues, all protocol observed. Mine is just to take the committee through the 2022-2023 annual report. I'm not, Chair, going to touch on other issues because we have been to the Portfolio Committee, and I think the issues around the 2020-2025 strategy have been highlighted. Safe to say, we continue to operate in an environment that is curtailed by the Act itself, which is the Road Accident Fund Act number 56 of 1996 as amended in 2008. Part of the challenges that you are going to find is in relation to the continuous insistence by the Act that we must use lawyers. So Section 19C is very clear about the use of lawyers, that in case you prosecute a claim using any other person except the ones that are stipulated in 19C, the RAF must not honor that obligation. It actually goes worse when you go to Section 19D, and of course Section 18.4 that will much more deal with the issue around what members would always find is about funeral benefits. That it says that the funeral benefits must be limited to entering someone into a grave or actually performing other things. But the reality is that this deals with the body. The issues around payment of rituals and all those things that our people really look at is something that never happens. So it must be seen in that context. So we are dealing with the context of this, but so far the strategy is starting to show offshoots. I think I'll start here, Chair. I will go through the background, but just scantily. The strategic context also scantily, because I really want to get and spend more time on the organizational performance in annual financial statements, and of course the AGSA outcome. Next slide. This is just a summary of the 2022-23 analyzed both performance and procurement objectives and the financial performance, as I said. Next slide. This is just the key strategic choices, and I think the most important part is the 2020-2025 strategy, because we are in the middle of this strategy. This was year 3 of the strategy, which focuses on the reduction of administrative costs, reduced legal costs by 75%. I want to juxtapose this to what you would see in the 2012-2014 strategy that sought to reduce legal costs by only 2% a year. The settlement of claims within 120 days, you juxtapose this to the 2013 to 2017, which said that targeting 1,400 days, which to us was not acceptable. And of course, the introduction of integrated claims management system that we need to bring into the space to make sure that we are able to service our people properly. Next slide. This is just the indication of the offshoots. What this shows is the projected RNYP, meaning if we did nothing, we didn't bring the 2020-2025 strategy, we would be sitting at the requested but not yet paid of 51.4 billion. That would have meant that our short-term debt would even be more than our revenue, which is sitting at 48 billion. So we would have simply shut doors if we did nothing. So the impact of this, you would see it with the red line, which is the actual performance. That gives us to about 9.7 billion in RNYP, as it were. Next slide. This is also a projection, Chair. The projection that indicates that if we did nothing, the legal costs would have surpassed 50 billion by 2028 and about 87 billion by 2031. If we did nothing. So the quest to reduce legal fees was in line with this, so that we can remove this litigious model and start servicing our people from actually them claiming directly from the road accident fund without necessarily needing the services of lawyers or the legal costs that were there. 99% of the time we settled matters, but we're still sitting with a bill of 10.6 billion when we started. And that has been reduced, as you would see in the next slides. Next slide. This is just the other challenges that we face, which is long settlement turnaround times, the unsustainable funding model, as we keep on saying, the governance and leadership instability that we had, the manual litigious operating model, the non-compliant claims that are lodged, and of course the fraud and corruption culture that engulfed the RAF for some time until we insisted on implementing the 2020-2025 strategy. The RAF mandate, Chair, I won't go to it. I think members would be, honorable members would be quite comfortable with knowing what it does, but in the main, the payment of compensation for loss or damage that is a result of wrongful act on the roads. And we emphasize wrongful act because, Chair, there is a view that RAF pays for everything that happens on our road, which is not quite correct. If you are involved in a single car accident and it's all a fault of your own, the RAF would not be able to cover that. Next slide. This is just a vision and mission that has changed over the years, and we relied on an equitable and sustainable compensation system. We are saying equitable and sustainable, Chair, because the poor are getting a raw end of the stick when it comes to this. Because as a poor person, once you are injured on the road, if your earnings were low, you are going to get a low support from RAF. Whereas if you are a rich person and you had big earnings, you would have more from this perspective. So it's something that we think needs to change to what is quite equitable. And that's why it's not sustainable, because we are saying the rich must not benefit from social benefits, as RAF is a social benefit. Now, the mission is to provide appropriate benefits to all qualifying road users, appropriate being the word that we use simply because we understand very clearly that if it's not appropriate, it leads to regressive kind of a system that gives more to the rich and less to the poor. So that's what we need to balance as we move forward. And then, of course, our core values, very important: integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, excellence, and we've added this year empathy, so that when we deal with this file, we deal with it from that perspective. Next slide. This is just the strategic outcomes. I think Minister has touched on this. There's no need for me to touch on them. Safe to say that a transformed and sustainable RAF is what the AG chose as part of what they're going to do going forward as a sample. Next slide. The organizational performance, the summary is this: that our investment income has grown by 27%. And of course, the cost to income ratio has been quite level, meaning that it remains constant over the period. We had a revenue of 48.76 billion in this financial year. And of course, of the strategic outcomes, you'd see that we have paid about 45.69 billion. And of course, this has increased to a bigger amount of about 54 billion in this year, as you'll see in the next slide. Here is the number of claims liabilities that we have has increased over the period as we increase the number of requested offers, meaning that we are now settling more claims. We must emphasize that we are trying to balance the availability of funds that we have, which we are paying in 180 days, and the need to fast track and settle claims. Because if we then run ahead of ourselves and settle more backlog claims, we are going to not be able to pay them, and that will create a problem. So we are balancing the two. What is important is that we are growing the portion of the amount we are paying to the claimant. As you'd see the medical claims that we pay, and you'd see the loss of earnings. The loss of earnings, 22.2 billion, 11 billion to general damages. We keep on saying this is not necessary for purposes of this scheme. In the main, we need to be paying people for loss of earnings and the loss of support and funeral costs, and medical claims, which we think is the bigger chunk of where our people should be making, to be assisted. The legal fees on average 51% over the period, and you see that the reduction in medical claims paid is 41%. Next slide. Just a summary of the performance on the key indicators, Chair. I'm going to focus on the ones where we do not make it, which is the 20% reduction in average age of all claims. So we set ourselves to make sure that these claims are reduced by 20%. On the backlog, as I said, it's a balance. We missed that target by about 3.3% because of the balances that we get. We have a problem as well when it comes to the direct claimants that we have in the system. We can't seem to locate them, and there are people that have just put in claims and they have not moved on those what we call those claims, the dormant claims that we have. So we are trying to make sure that we are achieving that 20%. The view was that we must reduce it, but we are insistent that it's something that we must keep on doing to make sure that our people get the benefit. Next slide. Let's just move to the next slide. This is performance that we achieved And of course, here the unqualified audit report with no significant finding, as already stated, we have got an adverse opinion, although it was an improvement from the previous year. We still have this outstanding issue with the AGSA on our accounting policy, which we hope to resolve in this coming financial year. But so far as that is concerned, we did not perform as such in that regard. Next slide. This is the annual performance summary. I think the minister has touched on this, just to say that we have been on an increasing trajectory. This year, we have achieved 91.3%, which is 21 out of the 23 targets that we set ourselves. Next slide. This is just to show the average size of a claim paid, where people are saying, well, where we sit, the RAF is making people rich, is not in the main. There's a lot of people that are getting assistance from RAF, and it's not the big amount. 85% of this, you'd see that it's sitting between 50,000 and 1,000, which is so on average. When you see the average claim is pulled by the bigger claims on the right-hand side. And this on the right-hand side chair is for the people that can actually take care of themselves and don't necessarily have to claim from the social benefit scheme. So people like myself who can take off that. That's why we are saying that it's important that we stratify this and we make it clearer in what is called the bill that is coming. Next slide. The outcome of the compensation of the claims payment, what this is an indication of, Chair, is that you would see that the more the green portion grows, the more important it is. Because the purple portion is what is called administrative cost. So the green portion is compensation and medical cost, which is where we should be assisting our claimants. And you'd see that this jumped up from about 29 billion in 2021 to about 40 billion and stabilized around 38 billion in the previous year. So this is the part where we are saying we are reducing what we are paying to the lawyers and we are paying it directly to the claimant. And they are now supposed to be, it is going actually to the beneficiaries. Next slide. The claims movement as it is, you see that we are getting a lot of outstanding claims that are coming from service providers, as it were. The new claims that are registered at 92,000 versus the claims that were finalized in the year of about 86,000, which is a bigger portion of it, but we had to balance that with the finances, as we say. Next slide. The claims expenditure per product, as you see it here, is the total compensation. You would see that there is about 38 billion that we paid, the total compensation, and it's just divided with loss of earnings taking about 24 billion, and the general damage is sitting at about 11 billion, and the claims medical costs, which are sitting at 1.8 billion. And of course, the federal cost at about 51 million. Next slide. This is employment equity, Chair. The female representation within the RAF is sitting at 58%, with 48% being male. And at management level, we are sitting at representation of 51% female and 49% male. And of course, the people with disabilities is where we need to do more. 2.26%, which is below the target of 2.8%, which will be corrected in these coming years. On road safety initiative, the minister has said we need to ensure that we invest a lot in this area of prevention to make sure that there's not a lot of people that come through our doors. Driven mostly by the driver wellness program, where we've got a bus that travels and make sure that the drivers are well from a point of view of the ones that are traveling long distance, and the public transport vehicles. Promotion of tire safety, because we have realized that most of these things come from as a result of tires that are burst. And in those instances, the RAF does not actually pay, because it is not through the fault of the driver usually when a tire bursts. And of course, the defensive drivers workshop that we hold, and then the practical safety training for motorcyclists to make sure that they perform well on our roads and they do well. Promotion of cyclist safety, as well as road safety educational videos that we publish from time to time on our website. The implementation of a crash verification system that we have. Next slide. Then we'll go, Chair, to the statement of financial performance. I'm going to leave this in the hands of the CFO to take you through that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Honourable Chair and members of the committee, as well as our board chair, board members and my fellow executives. This is just a summary of the statement of financial performance. You will see there that our net fuel levy has increased ever so slightly. This, unfortunately, though, is in real terms, a reduction in our fuel levy as a result of inflation, which was sitting on an average of 6.9%. And our fuel levy has remained steady at R2.18 over the last 3 years. We have done quite well in terms of the increase in investment income, in the way that we are managing our funds and ensuring that where possible, we are able to retain funds and get return on investments, whilst we wait for claims to mature to 180 days ahead of payment. The claims expenditure on the other side have also increased by about 8 billion, and that is the direct result being the deficit that we have shown for the current financial year. And it's, as the CEO had mentioned earlier, it's mainly as a result of the increase in offers made which have not yet been accepted by the claimants, and that is in accordance with our accounting policy for social benefits. Our employee costs have increased ever so slightly as well, and it's basically on the basis of some insourcing of some of our services that we had previously contracted on, such as our state attorneys, our internal actuaries and assessors. And then lastly, just to touch on the general expenses, there is also an increase on that side as we are moving towards the implementation of our integrated claims management system, the implementation of our customer relationship management call center. So there is quite a focus on ensuring that we meet our APP targets, and obviously some of these have resulted expenditures relating to that. Next slide. This next slide shows a summary of the statement of financial position. Our current assets currently sitting at 11.6 billion. It's mainly comprised of cash balances, so cash in hand, as well as call deposits, as well as a receivable in terms of the fuel levy from SARS. We received the fuel levy about 2.5 months after the monies have been collected by SARS on our behalf. And current liabilities, you see there, is sitting at 35.6 billion as opposed to 27.6 in the past year, and that is, as I had mentioned earlier, it's the claims liability, which the majority of the increase is driven by our attempt to increase settlement in terms of both clearing the backlog as well as settling claims within 120 days. And we then end on a net accumulated deficit position of 23 billion. Next slide. This is a summary of the cash flow statement with we just show the movement in the cash balances for the year. So at the beginning of the year, we started with 868 million. We ended on 630 million, and the movement was mainly driven by the reduction in cash as a result of operating activities, which is obviously driven by the payment of claims in the majority. Next slide. This again, Chair, just shows the movement or the claims liability and the breakdown between the two different types of liabilities, short-term liabilities that we indicate in our claims liability as a result of the accounting policy. First, line A is the requested not yet paid. Now, these are for claims that have been settled and requested for payment, but are awaiting payment in terms of the maturity. So we have 9.3 billion there. And the CEO has already touched on the reduction in the claims liability since the implementation of the strategy in terms of RNYP. The second line, which is for offers not yet requested for payments. So as I had said, this is a liability that we raise at the point where the eligibility criteria for a claimant to have a valid claim have been met. And that has also increased, and that is the 8 billion increase in the liability in its majority. And as I said, it's as a result of the drive in settling claims. Next slide. Then we show a breakdown of the claims expenditure. So the 53 billion that we indicate in our statement of financial performance, what it is made up of is 45.7 billion in terms of cash payments to claimants and claims costs. And then there's also the increase in the minor increase in the RNYP of 189 million, as well as the increase in the claims liability, which I had mentioned earlier, of 8 billion. Next slide. And then just to also indicate the breakdown of the claims payment. So as I had mentioned, there was 45.7 billion paid in cash to claimants in the year under review. That is broken down into claimant compensation of 36.3 billion, claimant medical costs of 1.9 billion, claimant legal and other costs of 5.5 billion, and then RAF legal and other costs of 2 billion. Next slide. Then to just touch on the audit outcomes without repeating too much of what has already been said. We did achieve an adverse opinion in the year under review, and that is mainly as a result of the differences in terms of the interpretation of the requirements from a GRAP financial framework perspective. So you will see there that for the financial statements, we received an adverse opinion. For the annual performance report and the reporting of against performance objectives, we received a clean audit, and there was an improvement in that line. Then in terms of compliance with legislation, on the first line, there was material findings with regards to compliance, and again, it is linked to the application of the accounting policy matter, so it has remained stagnant. In terms of procurement and contract management, it was an unqualified audit, and it was an improvement from last year. Expenditure management, also unqualified and an improvement from last year. Asset management, unqualified and has remained at that level. Consequence management has improved as well as being unqualified. And then strategic planning and performance management was unqualified and has remained at that level since the previous financial year. Next slide. Then just to touch on some key observations on the RAF's performance that has been raised by the Auditor-General in their management report, specifically with regards to the reduction in legal costs of 60%, against the target of 30% that was set again as a baseline in the annual performance report. The actual legal cost base was 3.7 billion against the baseline of 9.4 billion, with a planned target in this year of 7 billion. And that obviously ensures that the funds that become available from that direct saving will be directed towards the payment of claimant compensation. Then there's also a mention made of the attempts by the RAF to reduce bank attachments. And there has also, since December 2020, through the implementation of controls, not been any further bank attachments. And there's also measures implemented by management to recover any duplicate payments as a result of these bank attachments, for which the majority have been recovered by the RAF itself and also through the assistance of the SIU. And then lastly, a reflection by the AGSA in terms of the RMIP reduction. This reflects that the majority of the net fuel levy is directed towards the payments of claimant compensation, with a steady reduction in the claims requested not yet paid. Next slide. I'm going to hand back chair to my CEO. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You are handing it back to me now. Chair of the board, I think you were fine, unless there's something that you want to lift it up that was not covered, but you said you are covered by the minister. I guess I'm right. Let me just check. If I say chair, I mean the chairperson of the board, Mrs. Francis.
Yes, yes, chair. Yes, I agree with you. I will not add anything else. You may continue Q&A.
Thank you so kindly. Honorable Minister, can we just get 5 minutes of the DOT financials?
Yes, Chairperson. The CFO can come in now.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and honorable members, all protocol observed. I'll just go straight to slide 158, which talks about the revenue of the department. As you can see there, the revenue for the department was 204 million in the current financial year, compared to 51 million of the previous financial year. The steep increase there is basically in relation to the RT58 contract for subsidized vehicle insurance, which came to the end in the previous financial year. Hence, there was a refund on that particular insurance to the department as the contract has expired. Then the next slide is a slide that shows the expenditure for the department as per program. And maybe to save time, I will just stick to this slide and it will address most of the issues, as the chairperson has indicated that we must have about 5 minutes. But if you look at this slide, it's clear that the department had a budget of 95 billion initially. Actually, the final appropriation became 95 billion, and we were able to spend 94.5 billion. And then the underspending there is 601 million. If you look per program, chairperson and members, you'll see that in administration, there's a 44 million underspending and so on, and 14 in ITP, 40 in rail transport, and 218 in road transport, and another bigger contributor, it will be public transport at 250 million. So I want the committee, the honorable committee, also to take note that last year there was a treasury instruction in relation to tender process because of the court judgment. So most of the items which were on the procurement plan could not be implemented because that instruction note was sort of replaced towards the end of May, which meant that almost half of the year we were not able to do procurement of large items. So basically across all the programs, you'll see the reason for the underspending is because of the delayed procurement process, basically because of that. Furthermore, the underspending, chairperson and members, is because of the vacant post which existed, where you could see that the compensation on employee, there was a 10 million underspending only on the compensation of employee because of the vacant post that the department had. If we can go further down with the slides and just highlight some of the issues. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. This other slide, Chairperson and members, give the details of what I highlighted in terms of underspending on goods and services. So as we go down with the report, we will go to the slide number 164, which deal with the environment as a result of the over and under expenditure that we have realized on our goods and services. You can see that the department processed environment of about 5.8 million, which were done from the transfers and payment of capital asset in order to shift funds where there is over and underspending. And next slide will deal with the overview of rollovers. The first rollover that we applied for was in relation to the procurement of IT hardware asset, which we had to increase in order to cater for our ITs. Then I think in the presentation, there was an indication that there was a slow pace of procurement of bicycles, but already before the year ended, we've already recommended an appointment of the service provider to deliver 12,000 bicycles, and then we applied for that particular allocation of 23 million for those bicycles. Furthermore, on transfers and subsidies, rollover has been requested for the revised taxi recapitalization project, which are focusing on exploring empowerment opportunities that can be rolled out by the taxi industry. Then if we go to the next slide, in brief, is the UIFW, as we call it, unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. In the current financial year, unauthorized expenditure was 0, as well as irregular expenditure. Then we had a fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 608,999.30. And this were in relation to 2 cases, whereby 2 cases have been transferred for collection for debtors, and 2 cases have been written off. The other slide, Chairperson and members, indicate is just what we call the statement of financial position, where you can see how much the department collected and how much is spent. I think here I can also highlight to the members to see that our revenue compared to the previous financial year have increased by over 23 billion. And this is as a result of the special allocation that was done to pay for the GFIP resolution process, which is a process which is still underway as to how much further this particular toll roads will be funded. That then the statement of financial performance continues on the next slide, and then we arrive in the next slide to the statement of financial position, which shows the assets of the department as well as its liabilities. Then the next slide, going forward, Chairperson and members, it will be showing our different grant that we are transferring to the provinces, as well as to our public entities and other beneficiaries, Chairperson and members. In brief, that is the presentation of the financial statement to the Portfolio Committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, CFO, and thank you all the presenters. Honorable members, here it's before us now. I will request that without censoring you to per person five questions, and then we'll come back and see how much can we stretch in terms of our engagements. But we must also do justice to all the presentations, and I'm sure members were taking notes. Now I will, without making any preamble, I'm looking at my board here. I see no hands. I see Honorable Zwane, Honorable Sitole, Honorable Mabena, and Honorable Nobody. Those are the 3 hands. I hope there's no one who's Otungala, but let's proceed. Honorable Stole. Honorable Ketamabala, I think you asked Stole, so I'm right this time around. Are you forfeiting your speaking allocation that I'm affording you?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm not forfeiting. Thank you, Honorable Chair. How are you and the members? No, Honorable Chair, I have only a few questions. My first one is the one that Honorable Mapena touched on it. If the minister can clarify that 29 million, which was paid to the officials, that goes to over to 3.1 million, which was paid to the officials, if the minister can clarify that one. And the other one, Chairperson, is the underspending. We have the issue of underspending, Chairperson. I think the administration is 45 million, and the program 4 is 218 million, and program 5, 11 million, program 6, 11 million, program 7, 251 million. I'm trying to check, Honorable Chairperson, if you see this underspending, what consequence management have been put in place by the department to handle this issue of underspending, because it's really worrying, because these are the service delivery. We're supposed to talk about the service delivery, but if you have so much underspending, Chairperson, is very worrying, Chairperson. And the other one, Chairperson, is the issue of vacancies. You see, Honorable Chairperson, if you are talking about 45 million underspending on vacancies, it means that the service delivery will not occur in the department. So now these are very frustrating, Honorable Chairperson. And the last one, Chairperson, is the issue of recapitalization. You see this rollover of recapitalization. It doesn't make sense. If they can give us, why are they doing a rollover? Because the recapitalization is the failure program. Honorable Chairperson, if they can answer those questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ketamabala. Honorable Zwane.
Chair, no, thanks for the opportunity. There is a 30-day payment that 7% was not paid within 30 minutes, 30 days. 3,172 people who were supposed to be paid within 30 minutes were not paid.
I guess,
While
Honorable
appreciating
Zwane,
that,
sorry, Honorable Zwane, I guess you have got in a space where you can't control the sound behind you. Probably you just need to move from the person who's talking, because we can even hear what he's saying. You may proceed.
Chair, may I proceed?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I was saying, while appreciating that a large number of people were paid within 30 days, the 7% that has not been paid should actually be taken into consideration. 3,172 people were not paid within 30 days. I would love the department to consider that and pay everybody that should be paid within a stipulated time. The low percentage should not be an achievement. There is a regression, Chair, in terms of performance by the department from 80 to 77%. I understand the issue of policies that have not been submitted, and scrapping of taxes, which was planned and not achieved. Nevertheless, that was the plan of the department, that they would scrap this amount of taxes. I would want to hear from them what was the issue. Chair, let me also then go to Raf. The chairperson of the board says they are willing to cooperate to settle the matter out of court. They are willing. From what I'm hearing, Chair, I think I need to be frank here. From what I'm hearing from the minister, and I think this committee will also support the minister, is that there is a feeling generally, even from Scopa, that this matter should be taken up and dealt with outside the court. And I think what we want to hear from Raf is that how far is the progress? Are they meeting? Are they resolving this issue so that this matter is settled? It will not be correct, Chair, for the committee to ask Raf that is this matter going to be settled by the next ensuing parliament? I think we should not show our inefficiency by transferring matters that we ourselves need to deal with this term. This matter should be resolved, Chair. It's my view that it should be resolved and resolved out of court, and Raf should come back and give us progress on this matter so that we close this matter without many other stories. I also want to say, while seeing the progress that Raf has said, 16% of reduction of average age of all claims has not been settled. It means people who have claimed a long time ago. We should not only say 16%. Whatever number that is there must be resolved. People are waiting for their claim. And so Raf should be seen to be doing that. The last issue I wish to raise, Chair, without taking too much time, is the high percentage of legal costs. I think is around 80%. I would want Raf to say what is happening there and how are they resolving that matter. Otherwise, Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Zwane. Honorable Omapena.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Please do excuse me. I'll be looking to my left and not at the camera as I'm looking at the second screen there. Apologies for that in advance. Thank you. Okay, I think number one, let's look at the department. But first, before I go there, the minister is here. We asked the last time when you were in the committee, we said you need to give us a written report within 7 days telling us about what I perceive as concealing of corruption within the entity, the one that is chaired by Wabuzola Majaf. I think is ATNS, of the board members who received fees and could not. There's a report that we received from that chairperson, which was not speaking to what we had asked for. And that report, in any case, should not have come from the office of the chairperson of the board, because that question was asked from you and the department. And as such, the department needed to give us a full account on what had happened. You failed to give us that report within 7 days. What does that mean? Is that you telling us that you are undermining this committee, that you feel that you're more important than this committee, and that the department would not be held accountable by this committee? What does that exactly mean? Because if we give any department and we say there's an instruction from the portfolio committee, our role is oversight. We're not meddling in issues of executive. But when we engage with you, we expect that you will take us into your confidence and also take South Africans into their confidence in terms of you accounting. But what you have seemingly have done by failure to give us that report within the stipulated time only can show that the department in itself has no regard for this portfolio committee and you see us as an inconvenience. But one thing that we can guarantee you is that we'll hold you accountable and that we're not going to be disheartened by your failure to give us what we had asked for and your continued disregard of this committee. And I think that has to be taken into account. And also, I think the time has come that as individual members of these committees, we should write to the president and appraise him and get clarity in terms of the behavior of some of the political principals within this department as to why is it that when we ask for critical information, that information is not forthcoming. The other issue that I just wanted to deal with in terms of the report that we're dealing with here, but before I go there, you see, when the current deputy minister was still the chairperson of the committee, he had some serious irritation with the reporting style of departments and entities. The first one is, you'll be telling us about the mission and the visions, everything else. I've been sitting in this committee for the past 4 years. Honestly, I believe now I get it, that what is your vision, what is your mission, and all of those things. Is it really helping us and saving us and doing us any justice in terms of all the reports when they come in, you are giving us all of that information in those reports? I don't think so. And most of the time, you spend even time speaking to that. And this also goes to the office of the Auditor-General. I mean, you've been giving us reports. I don't know, I've been sitting in this committee for the past 4 years, but for you, every time to start any presentation to the committee, taking us through in terms of what your mandate is and all of that, you've been saying that for the past 4 years, every year. I think we get it now. The other issue is the vacancy rate of the department. If you look at in terms of the report, you are sitting at 23.6%, of which 18.3% is the funded positions. I think there was a time when we had an engagement with the department and we asked in terms of what is the issue, where is the problem. We even made suggestions about your talent acquisition officer. What is really the problem? What is the issue? If you look at the unemployment rate of South Africans, look at the number of graduates that the public universities are producing year on year. One of the responses that we got from the department was that you are moving in a space where you are trying to remove, I think you said, the entry level requirements barriers in terms of asking for experience for some of the entry level posts. But with even you having given us those explanations, that has not changed. You still have a very high vacancy rate. And what is really the problem, especially for funded programs? It can't be that so late into the term is finished now, we're still fighting about the vacancy rate of the department. The last time you were explaining about issues of people being promoted, people retiring, and all of those things, and that you said you had seconded other people to other positions. But the main issue here is planning. You know that so-and-so is going to retire, they've reached a retirement age. You know that so-and-so, you are planning to promote them to a higher position, they're doing well. While we are planning for those, why can't we equally plan to fill those vacancies of those people? Is it the simple case of just people not knowing what they're doing, or we're just paying people for just to exist and breathe within these departments, which are very, very, very much taking so much money from the fiscals? And also, I think where we can locate where the actual problem is, the department is mismanaged. The department, in terms of the administration, if you look at Program 1, Office of the DG, Chief Financial Officer, you are consistently underperforming. You are the one that has consistent on all the reports. Go and analyze the past reports that you've given us. All of them, you are giving us that. There was a meeting that we held in Cape Town, and I raised this point quite sharply to say, in Program 1 administration, where the Office of the DG is, the Office of the CFO is, you are constantly the one that is not performing. How can then the department be in a position to be run effectively when in terms of the administrative leadership, you are not pulling your weight, because if this is happening, you are the one that is having a red indicator. And this is not only just a once-off, but it's consistent. Every time when we receive reports, this is how it shows. But also the other thing that I just wanted to touch on as well in terms of this, if you look at slide 8 as well, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here. You see, the last column, the performance levels, you've put all of them to be green. You know, like these are the small details which are a serious irritation for some of us who actually read your reports. You can't say a performance level is green when rail transport is performing at 40%. We can maybe understand for 72%, it's understandable for 86%, it's understandable for 83%. But what possessed you to actually make a 40% to be green? Are you trying to some sort of like mislead us to think that rail transport is performing when it's not performing? You have not you have set yourself 5 targets, and of the 5 targets, you have not reached 60% of those targets. But you put here on the performance level on the last column that is green, that is 40%. What is it? Why? Why are you constantly doing some of those things? And I think it's a serious irritation for some of us. Here is another issue that I wanted to also check in terms of the road accident fund. You know, when I got into the, and you will forgive me if I get this wrong, and I'm willing to withdraw, Chairperson. But when I got onto the portfolio committee in 2019, Mr. Litswalo was a DDG within the Department of Transport, who was constantly coming on to the committee reporting on matters of the road accident fund. Today, in their report, RAF says part of the issues that they're having that is affecting the entity negatively is leadership instability within the organization. This person has been in that position, acting for the past 4 years. Nothing has changed. Now, if you can't appoint this person permanently, why can't you just fire him? Remove him from that position. What is the point? If you don't have confidence in his leadership, why are you retaining him on an acting position for so many years? Why can't you just remove this guy? Get someone where you can have proper leadership, someone that has certainty in terms of their contract, where they know that they'll be permanently employed. And I believe that there's also the issue of you've just gotten a new board and all of those things that you're operating with interim boards. But the department is the lead department. You have to make sure that some of these things are addressed, because leadership instability within these entities is also one of the most irritation that we have. Another issue is that the report from the CFO of RAF, and I listened very quite attentive, but before I go there, you say that you want to settle claims directly to the claimants, and you even make this that you want to pay personal claims within 120 days. And it's here you said you had set yourself to pay 5% of personal claims within 120 days, but then you have seemingly overachieved there because you're at 9%. But now here is the issue. You are saying your biggest problem is the legal fees, and that you want to venture into a space where you settle claims directly with claimants. And you are making quite a good point in terms of saying the actual claims amount to medical bills, loss of income, and all of those things. But if that is a strategic focus of the entity, why are you setting yourself a target of only 5%? It is a direct contradiction of what you're trying to achieve. You can't say that is what we're pushing aggressively towards, but in terms of the targets where we can track you in terms of what you are saying, we are not, yeah. Increase the target. That's my frustration. Increase the target. Say you want to pay even if it can be 70% within 120 days, where it's personal claims, where people have come to claim from you direct, why is it so low? Why is that 5%? 5%, then you can actually overachieve. Then what is the point? Then it defeats the entire the purpose of this thing. My last point, Chair. The other issue of the compliance, I listened very attentively when the CFO of RAF was speaking. The compliance issues, number one, you are saying that you are making an inference that you received an adverse finding from the Auditor General's office as a result of the disputed reporting standards that have recently been achieved. Number one, you have resolved that issue. You have agreed. We've received signed audited statements from the AG for RAF. Now, you cannot come to this committee and tell us that you received adverse findings because of the disputed reporting standards that you had taken to court. Because if that is the case, why then the issue has now, why are we being told by the minister in this meeting that that issue has been resolved? But you still have the nerve to come here and tell us that you got an adverse finding because of that dispute. I think we should not be undermined. And for the mere fact that you guys have agreed, you've buried the hatchet, you must come here and tell us that we received an adverse findings because of gross financial mishandling within the entity itself. You must accept that you've now accepted what the AG standards are saying, and that they're finding you that you've got adverse findings. You must commit to fixing those and making sure that you improve on those. But you cannot come to this committee and tell us that you received adverse findings as a result of that dispute. And I think that's grossly undermining this committee. Chairperson, thank you very much. I'll come back.
No, thank you very much, honorable members. I will urge the next speakers to be mindful that they still have to respond. Honorable McD, followed by Honorable Kumal.
Thank you, Chairperson. I can't put my camera on because this device camera is not working, Chairperson. So I apologize in advance, Chairperson, but I'm sure you can hear that this is my voice. Very
I have to
distinct
trust
voice.
that, I don't know.
Chairperson, I just want to raise two issues, Chairperson. On the department's performance regarding transfers, I find it strange that although the committee has on numerous occasions said that all the entities and the department must structure their reporting that it makes sense from a service delivery point of view. And then we get a continuous regression in systems like the BRT and money spent, taxpayers' money spent. And I think we must really look at it that even though it is transfers from the department, money that they just give there, that there's a better oversight over this model of money getting transferred from the Department of Transport to other entities and to other divisions and to other municipalities, because it always feels like we are giving them money, but we have no say in what they are doing in with the money. And especially with things like the BRT, where hundreds of millions of rands have been spent and they are still not operating. Then on the taxi recapitalization, Chairperson, this I'll just ask two questions, Chairperson, to alleviate the time constraints that we have. I think it's come to that point. This thing is not gonna fly anymore. I agree that with Honorable Swane, the taxi recapitalization, the scrapping of taxis. Let's scrap that whole idea. Let's park it. It's done. Because it's not going to happen. It continuously comes on our books as things that as underperforming, and I think it's underperforming because the taxi owners are not coming to the party. Let's cancel it, and then we can look at it in the 7th Parliament can look at it. But I think this must come off our books, Chairperson. Thank you, and thank you for the department for a good presentation, and I'm very thankful that our minister survived the crime scene and the attempt on her. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, very much, Honorable Makdi. Honorable Kumalo. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Believe me, I'm not a robot. Let me echo the sentiment of my colleagues in feeling sorry with our minister that she has gone under the traumatic situation. We thank God that the mercy was upon her. Chairperson, I just noted a few things. The AG noted the slow response towards the disasters in 2 provinces. I'm also noting same thing, that the word disaster to me, it has a sound of urgency. I don't know why we do have this slow response. Maybe someone will somehow and when will give us the response. Chair, I have a few questions, particularly on the DLC A. As much as most of explanation has been said around DLCA, but I think I still have to maintain what I'm going to ask, because for me, this entity is one of the most important entities that impacts our people with regard to service delivery. My first one is that how is the department intending to stabilize the organizational environment for the GLCA to operate and function in a stable manner, taking into account all what has been said that affects the entity, your broken machine that has been recently purchased, the waiting period, waiting for the cabinet, was it the cabinet? Waiting for the new design DAs to approve. But what is the strategy to making sure that it is now going to work in a stable manner? Secondly, how is the restructuring going to improve service delivery with issuing of driving licenses? Chair, I understand that DLCA is telling us that they have resolved some of the things, including the purchase of machine, including the target that has been achieved. But I just want to get something that I'm assuming that there is, or maybe let me ask this.
Honorable Call, are you in the bus?
Yes, I'm just requesting my colleagues to lower their voices.
Yeah, if they can, lower to your
That is the kind of mode of transport that we are using as members of Portfolio Committee on Transport, Chair. I wanted to check that after that break that had happened for the DLC to perform its duties, how much is the demand on the application now, and what is this strategy to process it quicker and faster? Hence, people are always once you apply for the license, you always interested to getting it quicker. And then some of those people, sometimes they apply for the jobs and wait for the driver's license because it is part of maybe requirement. I heard, Chairperson, that the audit committee was supposed to be appointed before the end of October, of which I assume it is not, because if it was going to be reported that it is now appointed. And I just want to check as to when it is now intending to appoint the audit committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, honorable members, as well as the department and the presenters. Before Minister, your team respond.
Chairperson, I raised my hand.
Oh, my apology. Yeah, I did note you, then I just missed you. My apology. You may come in, honorable member. Ramato.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me start by greeting to the Minister and the team and my colleagues. Honorable Chairperson, I also want to take this opportunity to welcome the report from DOT, DLCA, and RAF. On my first input is on DOT. DOT got unqualified report with material findings from the AG. And now I think it's time that they work towards unqualified without material findings. They need to strengthen their oversight to the entities and making sure that what they have planned, they implement. Honorable Chairperson, the issue of the department not implementing what they have agreed with the portfolio committee. We can't write to the president before we interact with the department and making sure that we find out why is it like that. Because it's not an issue of reporting, but making sure that we got the challenges that they are having. Honorable Chairperson, on the issue of Program 1, on the issue of vacancy, the department has indicated that they have appointed senior managers in the department, though they are still not have appointed many people that were supposed to be appointed. So they need to fast track that and make sure that the vacancies are filled. And then on the issue of the debt that the department are writing off, the department needs to explain to us the rationale of doing that. The department indicated in their report that they met other targets and there are targets that they cannot meet. But what they have done is that they have put corrective measures and action plan in place. So it means they must make sure that those corrective measures and action plan, they implement that so that they can also be having unqualified report without findings. On the issue of DLC, they indicated that there is production. Chairperson, the revenue also increased,
So it means in the next financial year, I hope that they are going to be consistent with what they have done this time in this financial year. And they will be having this new machine that they are saying they are going to buy a new machine. On the issue of RAF, I just want to check, Chairperson, because you know what is happening is that if a person gets an accident having a medical aid, the hospitals will want RAF to pay, and also whereas the client is paying for medical aid. I just want to check with RAF if it's true that it's happening like that. Lastly, Chairperson, I think I'm through. Thank you. That's my submission.
Okay, no, thank you very much. We understand, honorable members, that you are in the basket. Switch off your mic so that you cannot talk. Thank you very much. From my side, Minister, with your entities, I think you must caution them that they mustn't take everything and anything to court just because it's not from their pockets, it's from the taxpayers. And I think it's not right. When we're engaging with RAF Minister, Honorable Minister, we did indicate that you've got laws of the country and procedures and all that. For you to then to say you leave it to the court to decide, I'm not too sure what we want to achieve, but and also probably, Minister, the issues of court and department and the reporting lines and all those things in terms of the expectations, in particular from the AG side. I think that your entities must leave it to your guidance so that yourself, Minister, the chairperson of the board and the CEO do speak one language. So because the chair is saying she's willing, and you have said that you are happy that it seems like we will reach a out of court settlement. We are not too sure in between the two, which is what, but they must be explicit in terms of how do we intend to resolve that matter. And then whatever policy matters, allow Parliament to deal with those issues, or you initiate the bill from your side as you are busy with, which we highly appreciate. That's one. Two, DOT, through Minister, is that in the presentation, I might have missed in terms of my hearing capabilities. The rail program, which the AG also picked it up, is the worst performing one. Whereas we are saying that we are resuscitating the rail, as it were. I didn't hear any sense of comfort from where I'm seated to say how do we intend to improve that, to take more lessen the trucks from the road to the rail, so that also there's a quick turnaround in terms of the quantity that is being transported at any given time. That's one. Two, from my side, is I'll tell you just now. I'll tell you. Is that I'm happy that Honorable Sithole didn't raise the issue of bicycles because it has been addressed. I thought he was going to appreciate that and add to say which schools are going to be beneficiaries, but nevertheless, I'm not asking that. But to say that if then you have not performed certain targets for whatever good reason, whether they are beyond your control or within your control, and you perpetually put them in the incoming year, are we doing the compliance issue in terms of ticking the box so that we populate our plans, or what are we intending on that? That's my worry, but I'm happy that probably in the immediate future, through your guidance, Minister, the issue of where you have to account and comply on performance on the monies that you have transferred in terms of the programs, you are going to be dealing with that. And we hope that the relevant IMC will not delay it any further so that we don't dump it to the 7th Parliament. At least at Parliament and your good selves would have concluded that so that we can assist. Even other portfolios also can benefit from that if we can take it, because you will ever be having a ongoing concern on those areas. 3, I would like, I thought without taking the route that Honorable Mabena have taken, but because we are dealing with the year that is 2022-23, which also needs to speak to the disaster, as it were. Your department minister was very shy to talk to that, notwithstanding that the AG did spoke to that. I thought we were going to be opportunistic also to confirm and to talk to that. I know that those areas that AG spoke to, you would have confirmed that. The 4th point, which I really, really appreciate the president on it, is I don't want to speak on behalf of other ministers because it's only you who have declared that publicly, that you have signed your performance agreements. You also put a rider that it's a carryover of the issues on the programs that you would have set up for yourself. One would be happy to say how best can we assist each other in terms of fulfilling those performance agreement with all the other issues and limitations that the AG has raised, and your good self as DOT you have confirmed. And what will happen? The other one, Honorable Minister, I'll refer to your good self because you are the political head. Is the areas or issues that would have raised by SCOPA. Mind you, are raising it because it's current. We are dealing with the year that was, and or SCOPA deals with the year that was. One will be interested to get a written matrix or a business plan or a schedule to say these are the recommendations of SCOPA, and this is how we intend to address them, which will also corroborate the second question that I raised in terms of the predetermined objectives that are continuously being put, but they are not achievable for whatever good reason and wrong reasons, as it were. With that, I think we are fine because some of the issues you have, because I've spoken to the issue of legal cost of anything that includes your department and RAF as well. The very last one, it was RAF, where they are on HR or on human resource program. Is it RAF? Yes. We would like to get a written report on terms of those disciplinaries, though, which is a written notice or still pending and all that. Is it financially maladministration related cases, or what is it? And how much has been able to recoup on those issues, if they are? Because I didn't hear anyone talking to that. We applaud that we are disciplining people, but we also want our money back of the taxpayers. With that, I will hand over to your good self, Minister. I'm scared to ask you, by past we should have done, because so that members can start logging in for the plenary meeting, and the written responses. Honorable Mabena, in terms of the written response and also where you're supposed to get the questions, I think those are the issues that we discussed before you joined us last week. But I think Minister must talk to that also to ensure that whoever supports him through the DG does do what he's supposed to do, because it can't be the minister. The departments are there, they must give the minister the report. Unfortunately, her head is on the block, she must respond to those things. But it goes to the issues of performance agreement that we would have signed with their immediate subordinates minister, that honestly we must also strengthen that part. Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister, if you may.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I will request that the officials respond to technical questions first, then I will come last. But maybe just on one issue pertaining to RAF and the Auditor-General, I think I just want to clarify this, Chairperson, because there is misalignment between what I said and what
the chairperson of the board said. I said, I have notes here with me. I said, a must chairperson indicate that both the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor-General were advised to find an amicable solution and settle out of court. And I said, it seems that did not happen. And our view, I said, chairperson, is that there will be no winners when this matter is settled by court. I had actually said that I made to understand that the court hearing date have been set for January and February 2024, as the parties involved could not find each other. This is what I said. It is in my notes. That's what I said in my remarks about the fund on this matter. But I still say that we still believe that this matter can be settled out of court between Road Accident Fund, between the Auditor-General and the Accounting Standard Board. It can still be settled out of court, but that it has been resolved, I have not said so, Chairperson. I can't say so because it has not been resolved. The matter is set for hearing in January and February 2024. That is the status of the matter on this matter, at this moment. And that is why the chairperson, in their response, then said they agree that they can still find a solution out of court, but that the matter is settled. No one of us said that.
Okay, no. I think it's important to clarify that point. I might have listened to it one ear.
Let me therefore request the DG and the CEO and chairperson, then I'll come last, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I think to be quick, Mr. Ramansi, CFO, and possibly DDG Public Transport. These are the categories of questions that are outstanding. If we may.
Yes, you may, DG, through the Minister.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Minister. On the issue raised by Honorable Zwane regarding the regression in performance, Honorable Zwane, we have developed a matrix that we call red flags to address all these issues. Most of these issues, Chair, are linked to the strat plan. So these are the processes that we need to go through in our APPs to meet our 5-year targets. So in areas where these matters fall outside our own control, they are in the critical path of what's in the strat plan. Hence, we have developed a red flag process to address these. And also, one of the issues that we're trying to do is to make sure that we look into our internal controls so that where matters are outside our control, we can be able to look at and also strengthen how we deal with the externalities to achieve this particular, to achieve them. So we can share the metrics with yourselves, and also when we come to present our Q2, we will highlight on the progress that we've made on the issues that, how far we are on the issues that are recorded in the report as non-achieved reports. Slide 8, Honorable Mabena, we note that, but I would also take you to slide 9, where we showing in a red color the regression that comes with it. But with regard to the green color, we're just highlighting in the column before that the areas that have not been met, which are in red. And the only time we use green is only to highlight what has been achieved. So it's the 40% achievement, but we'll look at it in terms of how far we can amend our red flags the process to identify those that are below a certain mark with a similar color. But your comments are then welcome. We'll look at that. Rail performance, underperformance, Chair. I think we are responding to it in the same way we're responding to Honorable Zwane. But safe to say, Chair, the road to rail progress. We have developed a road to rail migration plan, which was reported under ITP. And this is the work that we do in conjunction with Transnet. As and when there is progress in that space, we will come back and talk to that. The carryover of targets from one financial year to the other, Chair, Yeah, it's in our guidelines. It's allowable in terms of performance management. As I said, we need to move them to the next financial year as they are in the critical path of our 5-year targets. So we need to make sure that we in their linear approach they finalize what was targeted in the financial year so that we can move closer to achievement of our 5-year targets. I think those are the issues that were in the performance space, and the others I will allow the other DDGs to talk to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Litswalo, do you want to come in?
Sorry, Chair, I will, if you allow me, I'll respond first and then allow the
board chair.
The board chair.
Okay, yes, Chair, you may, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions, honorable members. I think the first one that I need to respond to is the one relating to the request for us to settle the matter out of court before the next administration. I will also link it to the honorable chairperson's comment about the different language, but I'm glad that the minister has clarified that. But honorable chair, I think it's important to understand that we are, as a new board, willing to continue with the attempts, and I think it's important to say the attempts to try and find alternative ways to settle this matter. I think that's what I said. But it's also important to state that we are unable to give an absolute commitment in terms of resolving this matter, because a settlement requires that the two parties need to agree in terms of how the matter can be resolved. And so we don't have the power and the authority to move the hand of the AG in this matter regarding settlement. But nevertheless, we will continue attempting. And I'm also aware that the previous board made several attempts to try and resolve this matter out of court. And approaching the court was a last resort. And I think that's very important to note that the court was a last resort after so many failed attempts. But nevertheless, as a new board, we want to try and continue with the attempts. So I think it's very important that we can't put a timeline to it or give a guarantee, because a settlement needs the other party to come to the party. And the second matter regarding leadership instability and Mr. Letswalo still acting, I think that was a little bit of misunderstanding, because that slide talks to the previous challenges that were found by the previous board, which led to the rough 2020-2025 turnaround strategy to improve the organization. So those were past challenges. I'm happy to state that the leadership instability is no longer a problem at the RAF. It's a thing of the past. And Mr. Letswalo has been appointed since, I think, August 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been at the helm as a substantive CEO for 3 years. So he's no longer acting. And I think the last, and the matter, I think the recommendation of around settlement in 20 days, the increase in the target, we note that advice. And lastly, Chairperson, the matter regarding the adverse opinion and the fact that we are undermining the committee, I really like to state that we will never undermine the committee. We understand the role and the importance of Parliament and its subcommittees, and we will always support the work and respect, the powers and the authorities of the committee. The fact that we receive an adverse opinion in the audit report, the auditors themselves stated that the adverse report is only affecting the financial statement in as far as the disagreement regarding the matter around the accounting policies, and also within compliance. That was the only qualification. So the audit report itself says that the adverse opinion is because of the disagreement that still remains. But the Auditor-General further gave us very positive opinions in every other respect of the audit within the RAF. So there is no gross mishandling of the problems at the RAF. Otherwise, the audit report would have stated so. So I just wanted to clarify that there are no gross mishandling, and we will continue to support and respect this committee. And I will allow the CEO then to continue to add. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mama. Thanks so much. That's what you say.
Thanks very much, Chair. Mine is a simple one. I think the Chair's covered and the Minister's covered a lot of other things. It is just about the balancing of the backlog and the money that we have. As you see it, we have a short-term debt that sits at around 9 billion. And over time, this backlog keeps on increasing, and you need to balance the cash you have and the number of claims that you have. So if we then fast track the other side, we are going to collapse the entity because there won't be any money to pay those claims anyway. So we balance that through, and then we try to make sure that we reduce, and that's why the target of 20%. Thank you.
Okay. Any other taker before we sum up?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Oh.
No. I'm not asking honorable members. I'm asking the responders because we have to close the meeting. But I don't want to be... Minister?
Chairperson?
I think, Minister, you need to guide me who's coming now, because I thought the DG have responded, CFO has responded, the chair of RAF has responded, and CEO. Who else wants to come in now?
The LCA chair.
Okay. Can I hit that?
All right. No, thank you, Chairperson. There were a few questions directly to the DLCA. I think the DG would have already mentioned a few, but there's a question about how we intend to stabilize DLCA environment. I think, Chair, the major focus of the Minister and the DG has been on addressing leadership issues. As already indicated, DLCA has for more than a period of 7 years been without a substantive head of entity. That has now been addressed, and we will then be commencing with recruitment of the rest of the senior executives. There's also been in the previous year an approval of the new organizational structure of the DLCA. Chairperson, coming to how the restructuring would improve service delivery, I think it's just important to mention that the RTMC Act provides for 10 functional areas, and one of those functional areas is testing and licensing of drivers. So currently those functions are fragmented because there's some that sits with DLCA, others that sits with RTMC. So by concluding the restructuring in the measure, that will assist with clustering of functions, sharing of tools, processes, rules and responsibility, and to also ensure that we centralize accountability. And then, Chair, there was an issue about the audit committee, how far we are. Chair, we were supposed to have concluded that in October. We are on track, even though we have missed the end of October deadline, but the process has already been concluded. And before the end of November, the committee would have been appointed. Chair, there's also an indication about the number of driving license cards that we printed in the previous year, 3.4, and an appeal that we must maintain that. Chair, I think it's important to just be frank with the committee and indicate that this was purely and mainly because of the COVID impact. Our projection are that we might not reach the 3.4 million again this year, because as at the end of the second quarter, we were at 1.3 million. We think we'll be at least at about 2.9 million cards by the end of the current financial year. So I think in a nutshell, Chair, this is our response to the questions that were posed directly to the DLCA. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. DG, I can see your mic is on. Advocate Mlau. Okay. No, I want to close Honorable Mabena. It's 3 minutes, it's 33 minutes towards 2 o'clock. Because I know we might not be satisfactory. We're dealing with the year that was. And I thought we have raised the substantive issues in terms of the AGs, also her foundings. Because the other frustration, which does give us a discomfort, is the issue of in terms of, I don't want to suppress to Honorable Mabena, but I would like also to assist me so that all of us, we get an equal share in terms of contributing in the meeting. Your hand is still up.
Thanks, Chair. I think there were two questions which were not responded to. One, the issue of the 5% 120 days claim by RAF, and then also the issue that we asked from the Minister with regards to the letter, which is outstanding for ATNS, has not been settled. And I think there was a question that we asked the AG, but you asked that we elevate it to the Minister with regards to the negotiation with construction mafia, in which they negotiated in favor of construction mafias. Is the case of the government being held at the ransom?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. No, I thought those ones, they need an elaborate, because in your questions also, you made a preamble of that we need to make, but also I was going to summarize before I can see the Minister, her mic is on, to say that the issues that I was still going to table them because they didn't deal with them. And of course, mind you, they're dealing with the year that was, and some of the issues are outside the report that we're dealing with. And I think we must be very considerate on that, not very, but little bit. But of course, Minister, I'm not your spokesperson. You may respond in a very summative way so that we take it forward. And also the issue of the turnaround time in terms of the responses, because even these ones, because there are other details that we want, which would not necessarily be able to respond now at this point, that we expect in 7 days to get them put. If the other ones, then we don't get them the way we expect. And I know that we're busy with the MANCO also to ensure that at a committee level, we are very explicit what we want from you, so that it's not generic and end up also saying that the quality or the information that we're expecting is not what we were expecting without being explicit initially. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. And let me thank the members for engaging with us and for the questions that they've asked. Chair, I want to say this for record purposes, that the Department of Transport and its entities, myself, the Deputy Minister, would benefit nothing out of undermining the Portfolio Committee, and we have no responsibility whatsoever to undermine the Portfolio Committee. We take the work of the Portfolio Committee seriously. I just want to go to the question on the ATNS and the overpayment of the board members. The question was asked by Honorable Mabena at the meeting, which had nothing to do with ATNS, but he said, I'm taking advantage because you yourself, Chairperson, have actually asked the question and you said you're taking advantage of the presence of both the Minister and the Deputy Minister. In response, the Chairperson said, indeed, it's a question that is not on the agenda. However, Minister, you can respond if you feel like I responded. Because you had actually given us the choice to either respond or to respond later. I responded at the meeting, and I said at the meeting, this matter indeed was in the annual report of the ATNS for 2021-2022. At the AGM, which I personally attended, the matter was raised, and the shareholder representative, who was the Deputy Minister Chikunga then, indicated that all board members who were overpaid, even if it was not their mistake, it was the calculation that was done wrongly by the entity itself, but they're supposed to pay back the money. There was a serious argument, particularly from the then chairperson of the board, thinking that it's not unfair. But then they ended up requesting for an in-committee meeting because the shareholder representative insisted that they need to pay back the money. They came back from the in-committee meeting and they then said they're going to pay back the money. There was an indication that there are two members who are unemployed who think that they don't have money to pay that money. But we insisted that everyone who was paid overtime, who was paid above what they're supposed to get, should actually pay back the money. Then, of course, we got the report this time around to say that those two members owed something like 350,000 rand. And they have since left. They were not reappointed. They actually indicated to the board and everybody that if they are reappointed, they will be able to pay back the money. Then they were not reappointed. Now, the board followed a process to say, if they have got to follow these members legally, they can only do that through legal options. They will have to pay more than maybe for them to write off this. This was the decision of the board. to write off the 350,000 rand, looking at the cost of going the legal route following those members for the 350,000 rand, which will cost them more than that. Otherwise, other members, Chairperson, are paying. I responded to the question. Other members are paying back. In fact, about 90% of the money has actually been paid back, except for this 350,000 rand, which maybe the portfolio committee can advise us to say, must we go back to say, get those people, because they no longer have any relationship with ATNS now that they were not reappointed. And the only option then will be for the ATNS to go the route of the legal route for them to pay back the money. And that is the issue at that moment on the ATNS. If that is not enough an answer even now, Chairperson, you can then advise to say, we want you to write to respond in writing, but I'd actually done that even at that meeting. When I left, I thought that I'd responded to the question, but if there was the understanding that I will still have to respond in writing, I did not get that, and therefore will apologize because I didn't understand that I still have to answer in writing, because I did respond to the question myself at the meeting.
No, I thought, Minister, we were going to say that you did respond, because the words that you are repeating, you did respond. It's just that I didn't want to be a spokesperson. So for me, for moving forward, if you would have responded in a meeting where I was not there, and I will urge that all of us will remind each other that this question was responded to, so that we save time, and also we don't seem like we just want to respond because we want to listen to our voices. But it's important when it's raised in such a meeting that you do also be given a fair chance to respond to the question. Then there are these other questions that Honorable Mabena raised. How do you intend to handle it, Minister?
Chairperson, on the negotiation mafias, those are criminals, and that's how we see them. We follow an open tender process in South Africa in terms of the constitution and our laws. And anyone who gets a tender is the one who should actually do the work. Nobody can then come to the person, the contractor, and demand any money. If that happens, and as it happens, then that becomes a criminal offense, and that is why we're working together with the Minister of Police on this one matter together with the Zamazama issues. So this one, Chair, it's nothing that you can negotiate about. Nobody can go to a home or go to a site or contract site or construction site and demand money from whoever. That is criminality, and that is how it should be treated. I just want to say that. On the issue regarding moving freight from road to rail, Chair, indeed, the roads belong to us, particularly the national roads. But of course, the freight for now falls under, the freight rail falls under the DPE. However, we are busy with the roadmap, freight logistic roadmap, where we are consulting so that we can implement, we can see the implementation of the national rail policy, which separates infrastructure from operations, with the aim of establishing an entity like your AGSA, which I think you will understand, and the operators like your SAA and your whatever airlines, then separate and coming to operate given the slot. And that is what we are busy with. We're trying to push so that this can happen as quickly as possible. Because indeed, Chairperson, particularly the N3, is indeed a nightmare. When you drive on the N3, you experience the serious challenges, particularly between Pietermaritzburg, Durban, and Harrismith, and so on. So there is that work that is happening. Regarding Chairperson, the issue about PIAC, Chair, let me just, if I can be given, it's just a little bit of 1 or 2 minutes there, Chairperson. PIAC is a non-profit association which was established in 1909 as the Permanent International Association of Road Congress. Its broad aim over its more than 100 years history has been to promote international cooperation on issues related to roads and road transport. Unlike aviation and maritime that have agencies, UN agencies such as IMO and ICAO, the road sector does not have such an equivalent. And therefore, PIAC becomes that important body that looks at issues related to roads at an international level. It has got more than 100 members. For the first time ever, PIAC has achieved true geographic representation by electing its first president from the African continent for the period 2021 to 2024. And that African president is in the person of Mr. Nazir Ali, the former SANRAL president from South Africa. And I just want to emphasize this point, Chairperson. Also, PIAC at the time elected 25 executive members from around the world, of which Mr. Randall Cable, as SANRAL Western Region Manager, which consists of Western Cape and Northern Cape, was elected to serve in that 25 executive members. And I think this is also important, Chairperson, to keep in mind. SANRAL is a member of PIAC, and its membership dates back to 1995, and therefore SANRAL represents South Africa at PIAC, like it will be the case. South Africa will be a member of ICAO and so on and so forth. PIAC membership is of real value to South Africa because it does enhance South Africa's international relations and provides opportunity for the country to share its accumulated knowledge, but share with other countries as well its experiences and best practices to member countries around the world. For this one, PIAC this year, SANRAL was represented by its CEO, Mr. Reginald Demana, as the first delegate for South Africa. And I just want to emphasize that. But also because there was an expectation that politicians will attend, because this is like an assembly for PIAC. Then the minister also led a delegation from the Department of Transport. We were given as member state or the opportunity to exhibit and showcase our experiences on how at the PIAC we do things. And South Africa Pavilion actually offered a unique opportunity for DOT and SANRAL. And I just want to emphasize this point, Chairperson. Every country in the world, when its person leads, like you have Nazir Ali from South Africa being the president for a period of 4 years, and Mr. Randall serving in the executive for a period of 4 years. There is an expectation that the country will show support of its leadership to the extent that leadership will say, this is what we want to achieve. And therefore, from the Department of Transport, the minister led a delegation, and from SANRAL, a delegation of 20 officials that were to serve in different work streams. Yes. I just want to say that, Chairperson, indeed, it was but very expected because we have the president from South Africa and an executive member from South Africa. Thank you very much, Chair.
So in short, in terms of the 29 delegation vis-a-vis 3.1 million, was the people that in terms of treasury regulations that they were in compliant in that in terms of providing technical support, exhibition, and all that. Because the department and SANRAL is not one body, but in short, that's what you are saying, that those individuals, all of them, they had value add in terms of the gathering that they were attending. With that, Honorable Minister and colleagues, I know I've overstretched honorable members, which I regret and I apologize. That will bring us to an end of our engagement in terms of 2022-23 financial report. Of course, other issues that we have asked questions, Advocate Nell and honorable members, without repeating ourselves. I think we must pay very close attention in terms of the recommendations that we make, that will indicate indeed that we have done our robust and also assist the entities and the departments to do better and be compliant. And the other details, Honorable Minister, that we would have asked, I will urge that member so that we are explicit when we are writing to you through my office on behalf of the members to say this is other information that we will require, that we, honorable members, we send them directly to Ms. Valerie, and then can be consolidated before our next meeting. On our next meeting, then we would confirm whether did we do that or whatever would all issues that we have raised here. And I will urge members that let's go back to our 2022-23, 23-24 plans that we have approved, that all other issues that presenters said that they are carried over to the current financial year, that they are, yes, indeed, they are there so that we can be able to oversight them and keep close monitoring thereof. The other one is that the letter to the president, I would suggest, honorable members, that as the committee, don't take that decision. We allow individual members as they deem necessary and fit and proper to do that, they do that. Because we, at this level, we do have an accounting officer, which is the minister. And I didn't hear anyone say that we have failed and she had failed in her part in terms of ensuring that she accounts in this committee. And the other one is left on the recommendations that we desire to be on place so that we hold the department robustly so accountable. With that, honorable members, allow me to thank our support staff, in particular research, our researcher, Mr. Ngezi, and Advocate Nell, as well as the department led by the minister and the entities and led by their chairs, and for now is the chairperson. But to conclude that, honorable minister, moving forward from your side, also when you do your legacy report for the next incoming administration in terms of your space, do also want them to discourage them not to have a perpetual ongoing concern in terms of non-performance and those issues that need to be addressed, as well as the bills that are there ever before your lifetime in this department that are still with the executive. And also urge on our behalf in South Africa that the IMCs that process some of these issues, if they can, assist in that spaces, because transport is a very important foundation for the economy to grow of any given country. If those issues are still with the IMC and is being reported, unfortunately from this side, we are not going to listen to that. But also we don't have anything because IMC doesn't report to us. It's your good self that reports to us. Other than that, colleagues, Advocate Nell and her team with Mr. Ngesi, with Dr. Ngesi, we will draft a draft BRRR report. We have received the first draft, and now we are going to incorporate this one. And I will urge members to ensure that we concentrate on the observations and recommendations because they need to speak to each other. Other than that, have a blessed week ahead of you, and the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Long live the Chair.
Thank you, Minister.